Chapter 81. Ding! Your two bodyguards have arrived. Education Committee member Meng, are you saying you want me to be captain of the next Continental Youth Advanced Spirit Master Elite Tournament? Lin Yu feigned surprise. Setting everything else aside, the royal fighting team in the original story had always been a contrivance to showcase how exceptional the protagonists were. It made no real sense. In the original timeline, Dugu Yan was already 21, but only a 38 spirit elder. The others were even worse. Yu Tianheng, who had far better talent and resources than Dai Mubai, only managed to break through to spirit ancestor at 20. When Tang Chen gave Dai Mubai the immortal herb, the 17-year-old Dai Mubai had already hit a bottleneck. Ridiculous. Meng Shenji smiled at Lin Yu's act. He didn't have the final say anyway. Heaven Do Royal Academy belonged to the Heaven Do royal family, and it was the family's decision to appoint Lin Yu captain of the next royal fighting team. After a moment's pretense of thought, Lin Yu agreed. All right, but starting now, I'll select the team members from the Tianhui class. I ask for your full support, Education Committee member Meng. Isn't it a bit early to start selecting now? The tournament is more than 7 years away, Meng Shenji replied, surprised at how far in advance the process was to begin. Still, once he remembered that the royal family had given Lin Yu the authority, he stopped objecting and agreed. After a little discussion about cultivation matters, the busy Meng Shenji left. Once Meng Shenji was gone, Yuru pulled Lin Yu into a tight hug, apologetic. I'm sorry, Yuer. Your father and I shouldn't have gone and arranged a girl for you without asking you first. Lin Jian, standing nearby, said nothing. He knew his son had a strong sense of pride and opinions. They hadn't informed Lin Yu ahead of time, and he felt ashamed. Lin Yu basked in his mother's tenderness for a moment, then pushed free with a smile. Mom, I never blamed you. I just couldn't stand that woman's arrogance. A support system spirit master who doesn't know her place will only bring trouble. Let it go, Lin Jian murmured. The mention of the Ye family's madam left him uneasy. He bore some responsibility. But the matter was decided, so he planned to let it pass. As for the Yi family's retaliation, he didn't worry. Even if they hired a spirit Douluo, he would face them. The night passed uneventfully. While the Lin family celebrated Lin Yu's return, word of the incident filtered to someone who loved meddling in such affairs. At the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, Ning Fengji grinned as he read the spy report. Sword Dolo Chen Xin, who had just finished his cultivation session, noticed Ning's smile and asked, What's got you so pleased, Fengji? Ning told him the gist. The Ye family's madam had left the Lin house in a humiliated state. Chen Xin, who liked to appear aloof and superior, didn't understand why Ning was so amused. Puzzled, he flew off on his sword to see for himself. On his way out, he bumped into Gu Rong, another revered elder of the school. The two exchanged frostily polite snorts and hurried on their ways. Neither was likely to get along. When Ning saw Gu Rong arrive, his eyes gleamed. For delicate matters, the irreverent, spatial attribute Gu Rong was useful. Ning casually mentioned the Ye family madam's humiliation. Gu Rong's expression hardened. Fengji, this is an opportunity. We can use it to deal with the Ye family and that brat who embarrassed the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Killing intent flashed from Gu Rong in a way that would have shocked anyone who only knew him as a respected, titled Douluo. Uncle Gu, we can't, at least not now. Ning stopped him with a hand. Qinghe is about to ascend to Crown Prince. We mustn't disrupt the situation or lose sight of the bigger picture. Gu Rong still resented Lin Yu, but he understood the necessity of restraint. He wanted to act, but he had to consider the school's long-term interests. 3 days flew by. Lin Yu quietly moved back into his small house at Heaven Do Royal Academy. Qian Renxue had renovated it as instructed. Beneath the main floor, a small underground cell had been built, lined with the sturdy, refined gold metal so that the rabbit couldn't dig its way out. Even if Xiao Wu kept clawing, she wouldn't scratch a mark in that metal. In the meantime, Lin Yu relaxed. He cultivated his spirit power and searched for the sensation he needed to break through the domain layer. He also spent time feeding the rabbit locked below and studying the seed of life in his mind. If he had extra minutes, he returned to thinking over royal fighting team strategies. Qian Renxue was busy with the Crown Prince ceremony, so she needed little from him for the moment. As Lin Yu stepped out of the dungeon after giving Xiao Wu some excellent carrots, he suddenly felt eyes on him. He turned and saw two elders in black robes sitting where they had been waiting. One was burly, the other lean. Both stood and bowed with utmost respect. Subordinates Mo Xiang and Ghost Leopard greet young master. At the names, Lin Yu's guard immediately lowered. So these were the two bodyguards his grandfather had promised. They were generous choices. Mo Xiang and Ghost Leopard were far stronger than the crouching dragon and phoenix fledging pair that lived beside Sister Shuer. They were genuinely powerful. In the Spirit Hall, most would-be heavyweights fall to plot armor sooner or later. Lin Yu's face lit up. With them here, he wouldn't be limited by his own strength or worry so much about undertaking certain tasks. Besides, his safety was much better secured. There were still people in Heavendo City who wanted him dead. The bodyguards have arrived. If you haven't received yours yet, send a recommendation ticket or a monthly ticket and I'll push it along. Chapter 82, Connections, an Avalanche of Spoiled Brats. After talking with the two men, Lin Yu finally understood. Although they belonged to the Hall of Worship, strictly speaking, they were members of the Angel Clan, commoner geniuses. Qian Renxue had raised from childhood to serve as the clan's guardians. In return, they had sworn solemn oaths with their spirits to obey Qian Renxue's commands. That kind of arrangement was common on the Douluo Continent. Most forces demanded an oath from outsiders before investing in their cultivation. No one begrudged it. This was how power and responsibility worked. Their spirits were also like Lin Yu's father Lin Zhan's, mutated, but their starting points were a little higher. Devil Bear Douluo's spirit was the family's ancestral bear. Even without spiritual power, the family members had been born with enormous physical strength for generations. Devil Bear said his line went back 21 generations. He hadn't only awakened a mutated spirit, his spirit power reached innate rank 9. As his father put it, he owed it to 18 generations of ancestors. Ghost Leopard's path had been harsher. Abandoned and picked up on the roadside by Qian Renxue, he had nothing to rely on but his own luck and the tutor's patronage. Knowing this, Lin Yu didn't put on airs. He called them Uncle Xiong and Uncle Bao, the same polite titles Qian Renxue used for Serpent Dragon and Shi Shui. At first, the two titled Douluo were reserved and reluctant to accept such familiarity, but Lin Yu persuaded them, and they finally allowed it. Devil Bear then told him something else. After Qian Renxue's return, he'd unilaterally announced in the Hall of Worship that Lin Yu was to be the Saint of Spirit Hall, with a status equivalent to Qian Renxue's as Holy Maiden. That placed Lin Yu on a far firmer footing than someone who depended only on the Supreme Pontiff's favor. Lin Yu guessed that Qian Renxue's acceptance of Bibi Dong as Spirit Hall's Holy Maiden had been a political move to protect Qian Renxue. Bibi Dong was probably just a figurehead who could take the blame, not someone with real access to the Holy Maiden's authority. After thanking Qian Renxue for his help in front of Devil Bear and Ghost Leopard, Lin Yu headed for the Tianhui Grade building. There he bumped into a limping acquaintance, Qin Ming, a top former student from Shrek Academy. Qin Ming had broken through to Spirit King a year ago and now taught at the Tianji Grade, though he was unlikely to develop beyond his present level. A year earlier, while hunting for spirit rings, he'd run afoul of a vengeful girl. Shi Shui, who rarely acted herself, had personally crushed many of his meridians and broken one of his legs. The injury destroyed his future prospects and changed his temperament. The once strict, passionate young man had become as complacent as the other teachers at Heavendo Royal Academy. Qin Ming, who'd been informed to expect Lin Yu, looked both moved and envious. He hadn't expected Lin Yu to be eligible to compete in Spirit City already. When he had been at Shrek Academy, competing had seemed a distant dream. Even getting by had been a struggle. Student Lin, Qin Ming said, handing over a sheet of paper. The 3 members of the education committee asked me to give you this. They said you could especially consider the people listed here. Lin Yu glanced at the paper. The list was painfully telling. 5 names, all clearly backed by connections. Shishi, age 17, Spirit Blue Fire Lion, rank 19. An Xiongda, age 17, Spirit Thick Earth Bear, rank 21. Wei Qinglang, age 16, Spirit Clear Wind Wolf, rank 22. Zhanglu, age 16, Spirit Red Armored Tiger, rank 21. Zhongli, age 17, Spirit Chasing Wind Leopard, rank 22. Lin Yu stared. With cultivation that low, they still expected to rely on connections? He almost laughed. If he accepted those recommendations, he'd be a one-man god fighting 7 scared teenagers, whether solo or in a team, while they rode on family prestige. In 7 years at most, those 5 might reach Spirit Elder, and the finals was not a place where Spirit Elders turned the tide. They were cheering squads at best, cannon fodder at worst. Lin Yu tore the paper to pieces. He went to the dean's office and got the Tianhui grade roster. Then, on his way to the Tianji grade building, he passed the Heavendew Elementary Academy, where nobles whose spirit power hadn't yet reached rank 10 trained until they obtained spirit rings. Lin Yu, having entered as a spirit master, had never been through the elementary academy and didn't expect to find trouble outside. A child of 8 or 9 stood in his path, chin tilted like a spoiled prince, surrounded by a dozen similar-looking teenagers. Lin Yu studied them a moment. A group like this, none of them truly spirit masters yet, should have known better than to block the way of someone who might be a Tianhui competitor. He asked coolly, "Have I offended you? Why are you blocking me?" The leader wore arrogance like a cloak, but his bearing betrayed his rank. "You are Lin Yu," he said with a half-smile. "This prince has heard your name from my imperial father so many times it's worn his ears. How will you compensate this prince?" At the word prince, Lin Yu's mind supplied a name, Shui Beng. Besides Shui Qinghe, Shui Beng was the other prince of the Heavendew Empire. No one dared to impersonate a prince inside Heavendew Royal Academy. If this boy claimed the title, he must have it. Had Shui Beng already started colluding with Shui Xing, or was prodigal behavior his true nature all along? "Oh," Lin Yu said calmly. "Prince Shui Beng, may I ask why you're blocking my way?" Shui Beng didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, bent as if to pick something from the ground, and then raised his hand to slap Lin Yu across the face. Lin Yu's expression tightened. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "That's a bad move," he said, voice low and hard. "Let me show you what cruelty really is." Chapter 83, The Imperial Family Has No Kin. The tragic Beng 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 felt a thrill of satisfaction as his hand rose, ready to slap Lin Yu. He wore his usual insolent smile. Although still young and reckless, as a prince he was not as stupid as he looked. He knew, of course, who stood behind Lin Yu, Shui Qinghe, the imperial brother, everyone admired and feared. Shui Beng was jealous, deeply so, of Shui Qinghe, who, after the deaths of his 2 elder brothers, had inexplicably won the favor of Emperor Shui Ye and gained Ning Fengji's backing. Under the tutelage of the suspicious imperial uncle Shui Xing, Shui Beng had come to suspect that Shui Qinghe might have been involved in those deaths. Now, watching Shui Qinghe's star rise again and him poised to become crown prince, Shui Beng seethed with envy and impotence. This little scene with Lin Yu was supposed to be the first move. If he could provoke Lin Yu into striking a prince, Shui Beng thought, Emperor Shuiye, for the dignity of the throne, would have to punish Lin Yu or the Lin family. Shui Beng had even prepared to be hit. If Lin Yu refused to retaliate, Shui Beng would have shown magnanimity. If Lin Yu hit him, the scandal would damage Shui Qinghe's faction. It was a petty, vicious plan, humiliate Shui Qinghe by using his follower as bait. Watching Lin Yu remain motionless, Shui Beng's smugness grew. "Pity you didn't think this through," he sneered. "People are born different. I am a prince, you are a subject. Even if your background isn't bad, what are you compared to me?" His eyes flashed with malice. As a son of Emperor Shuiye, he had ambitions, like any prince, and he wanted nothing more than to unseat Shui Qinghe. Targeting Lin Yu was the opening gambit. But however clever his scheming, Shui Beng had miscalculated one immutable truth. Power is decided by force. On paper, Lin Yu's status as Dugu Bo's adopted grandson was not inferior to a prince's. In some circles, it might even carry more weight. That meant, in practice, a single slap might simply be written off as a juvenile conflict. Emperor Shuiye was not blind. Shui Beng mattered far less to him than Shui Qinghe, who had the support of the 7 treasure-glazed tile school. Shuiye had also observed the closeness between Lin Yu and Shui Qinghe. Their intimacy was deeper than that of ordinary brothers. As emperor, Shuiye had to be calculating. He might appear cold, but he understood the principle that the imperial family has no kin, and he would not sacrifice the future stability of the throne for the sake of punishing a minor insult. Just as Shui Beng's palm descended, Lin Yu's hand, quiet and quick, shot out and seized his wrist. For a moment, fear flickered across the prince's face, but he was too proud to yield. He struggled and shouted, "Let go, let me go, or I will not spare you." "A mere ant, and you speak so boldly," Lin Yu said coldly. Then, applying a small but precise force, he snapped Shui Beng's wrist. The pain was immediate and raw. The boy, not yet 10, screamed, his eyes wide with stunned shock. For the first time, his plotting blurred into panic. He realized his scheme had been seen through. Even so, he could not reconcile how Lin Yu dared to treat him this way. He was a prince, after all. Lin Yu twisted his grip. A soft crack followed as the prince's entire right arm was broken. Then, with another calculated move, he tapped Shui Beng's knees and forced him down to his knees. The noble youths nearby, Shui Beng's companions and hangers-on, went pale. This was an insult, an unmistakable humiliation of an imperial prince. "You dare humiliate a prince?" one of them barked, stepping forward with righteous fury. "Lin Yu, you're just a marquis's son. Do you know what you've done?" "I don't," Lin Yu replied dryly. He dislocated Shui Beng's other arm. The prince, overwhelmed with pain, passed out. Lin Yu tossed him aside like a dead dog. One of the nobles, more sensible than the rest, leapt forward to break his fall and prevent further disgrace. Lin Yu casually stretched, showing none of the effort he had made. Beneath the concealment of the emerald demon bird spirit, which was only one spirit ring away from a full transformation, Lin Yu's spirit rings shifted. The strange yellow, purple, black pattern he'd been hiding rearranged into the normal spirit ancestor configuration. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple. Lin Yu didn't hide it. Spirit power is hard to mask from high-level spirit masters. "I just broke through to spirit ancestor," he announced, "currently at level 43. Let's see how strong you noble prodigies really are." Their shock drowned out everything else. "A spirit ancestor? How old is he? How is this possible? This can't be real." Their astonishment left them vulnerable, and Lin Yu had little patience for them. He used his second spirit ability, paired Luan. 3 Lin Yus attacked at once, overwhelming them. In moments, all the noble youths were on the ground, bruised and humiliated. Lin Yu didn't linger to gloat. He left as casually as he had acted. Only after he had gone did the youths finally scramble to find help. As Lin Yu had predicted, the incident spread through Heaven Do City like wildfire. The rumor that a prince had been broken and thrown by a Marcus's adopted grandson made the streets buzz with gossip and outrage, giving the city a liveliness that would not die down soon. Chapter 84. Xuexing trains his nephew, forming the royal fighting team. Inside the secret room of Xuexing's residence, Qian Renxue wore a golden palace silk dress and looked at Lin Yu with gentle, liquid eyes. Lin Yu lay against her as if she were a soft pillow. The heat of her body and the faint fragrance on her clothes made him feel lightheaded. Qian Renxue held him close and said, "You might not know this, but that brat was badly injured because of you. Xuexing insisted in court today that he settle the score with you, and with Uncle Lin Zhan, too." Sensing the comfort of a beauty he hadn't touched in a long time, Lin Yu instinctively slipped an arm around Qian Renxue's waist and breathed in her scent. "Then did Sister Xuer stand up for me?" he whispered. Qian Renxue gave him an annoyed look and, half teasing, snapped, "No, I couldn't be bothered to manage you." Despite her words, Lin Yu smiled. Qian Renxue was proud to the point of stubbornness. Even if she'd scolded Shui Beng harshly in court, she would still be headstrong in front of him. To cure her of that little habit, Lin Yu tightened his embrace. Qian Renxue's cheeks flushed. She yielded with a murmured surrender. When Lin Yu kissed her, her resistance melted. The two stayed like that until their breaths grew short, and then Lin Yu reluctantly let her go. "Sister Xuer, are you going to cultivate today?" he asked. Qian Renxue leaned against him and touched her slightly swollen lips, soothing them with spirit power. She whispered, "No, we need to balance work and rest. I don't feel very well today, and you can't leave later, okay?" "Got it, Sister Xuer." They passed the night without incident and slept soundly. Lying on their sides facing each other, the first thing they saw upon waking was the other person. They had slept fully clothed. Early in the morning, Lin Yu left the secret room to give Qian Renxue time to change into Shui Qinghe's garments. Before long, Renxue, dressed as Shui Qinghe, and Lin Yu appeared in the study of Shui Qinghe's residence. After a simple breakfast, the servants watched them go with meaningful eyes as the two left the imperial city. Not far from Shui Qinghe's house stood an even grander mansion that covered more than 10 hectares. Shui Xing, younger brother of Emperor Shui Ye and the realm's only prince, walked in on Shui Beng sprawled in bed, cursing Lin Yu. Without a second thought, Shui Xing slapped him. The slap cut off Shui Beng's string of curses. He stared at his royal uncle for a moment, dazed. "Royal uncle, why did you hit Benger?" he asked. Shui Xing snorted. "You ask why, because you're stupid." He paced and scolded. "Tell me, who shouldn't you provoke? Yet you went and provoked Lin Yu? You only know he's the son of a marquis, but did you ever look into that Dugu Bo? That old venom has adopted him as a god-grandson. Have you forgotten what happened when Dugu Bo once besieged Seven Treasure City because Gurong threatened Lin Yu? In the end, Dugu Bo was driven back, but everyone learned how terrifying he is. He may not be able to wipe out the titled Douluo, but he can slaughter everyone else until only the titled Douluo remain. You were reckless." Under Shui Xing's harsh words, Shui Beng simmered, a mixture of shame and grievance on his face. "I know, royal uncle, but I'm unwilling. Why does father favor Shui Qinghe so much? Isn't it because Qinghe has the backing of the world's second-ranked sect?" Shui Xing heard the sullen resentment in his nephew's tone. The support of the second-ranked sect, the Seven-Treasure Glazed Tile School, was precisely what gave Shui Qinghe the strength to overshadow others in the Heaven Do Empire. What Ning Fengji expected to gain from supporting the empire remained unclear, but the scheming between Shui Xing and his kin never ceased. No matter who plotted against whom, someone else always profited from it. A few days passed. Lin Yu put a stop to a lot of favoritism and removed several candidates who had relied on connections. Slowly, the roster for the Heaven Do Royal Academy team for the upcoming competition began to take shape. The first picks Lin Yu favored were the Shi brothers, second brother, and Shi Mo. They had unusual backgrounds, were honest and reliable, and their cultivation wasn't weak. At 14 years old, both were at rank 26, top tier for the region, though to Lin Yu it was barely adequate. Their mysterious turtle spirit was strong, and Lin Yu couldn't help thinking, with a wry mental comparison, of a certain scoundrel surnamed Shu from 10,000 years hence. In temperament, the Shi brothers were much better than that scoundrel. Their spirits, a mysterious turtle and a dark mysterious turtle, were clearly different species, so any blood relation between them was unlikely. Next came Oscar, a peer from the meritorious nobility with a ghost leopard spirit. At 13, he was already a rank 25 spirit grandmaster. Lin Yu and Oscar were well acquainted. Oscar's father, like Lin Zhan, had been a minister who supported Shui's rise. Oscar's father was 20 years older than Lin Zhan and far more powerful, a rank 82 spirit Douluo, a top-tier expert in the Heaven Do Empire. When Oscar learned that Lin Yu would be the team captain, the normally stern young man actually smiled and greeted him politely. "Hello, Captain." Finally, there was Dugu Yan. After her spirit evolved into the cold nether poison dragon, and she used the secret method Lin Yu had given the Dugu family to fully control the toxins in her body, she chose a control-type system. At only 14, she had already reached rank 39 Spirit Elder, one rank away from breaking through to Spirit Ancestor. Having consumed an immortal herb, she stood out far more than the Shi brothers or Oscar. Lin Yu appointed her vice-captain so she could take command in his absence. These four, second brother, Shi Mo, Oscar, and Dugu Yan, were the same members who had formed the royal fighting team in the original timeline. With Lin Yu's arrival, the group reassembled. The other two members from the original team likely would not return, and whether new members would join was uncertain. One change Lin Yu made immediately was to remove the requirement for supporting spirit masters. In his view, those supports, no matter their type, were superfluous in arena battles. Chapter 85. Uneven Royal Fighting Team. A Crisis? It wasn't that Lin Yu looked down on support-type spirit masters. It was that he simply didn't believe any of them could outclass him. Even judging by pure amplification, his third spirit ability, Scorching Heart, a berserk-style amplifier without side effects, was in a different league from the 7 treasure-glazed tile pagoda. And that was only one ability. Any spirit ability he used casually would outmatch the current support spirits on the Douluo Continent. Not even the 9-heart begonia could compare. More important was his confidence. The competition was still at least 7 years away. There was no doubt in his mind that he would break through to Spirit King within that time. Lin Yu had a premonition that once he reached Spirit King, his strength would leap qualitatively. At that point, Spirit Kings or Spirit Emperors would be far from his ceiling. Even Spirit Saints and Spirit Douluo might not pose a real threat. Under those circumstances, what use would outside support be? For the final 2 spots on the royal fighting team, Lin Yu chose the sons of top nobles in Heaven Do society. One was Gexiang, grandson of Jie Long, the current marshal of the Heaven Do Empire. Gexiang had inherited the 9-life dragon and was Lin Yu's age, already a level 24 spirit grandmaster. Possibly because the Ji family were meritorious nobles, or because the royal fighting team was expected to win fame across the continent, Ji Long agreed immediately and sent his grandson the next day. Before Gexiang left, his grandfather told him to make an effort to get along with Lin Yu. The other recruit had a more delicate background. Shui Qingliu, Spirit Black-Feathered Swan. 14 years old and a level 26 Spirit Grandmaster, he had not been personally selected by Lin Yu, but was sent directly by Emperor Shui Ye. The surname Shui suggested royal blood. Shui Qingliu was indeed from the royal family, though his position was sensitive. He was one of the many adopted sons acknowledged by Prince Xuexing. Not biological, but possessing Heaven Do royal blood, he could one day inherit Prince Xuexing's title. Relations between Prince Xuexing, the Lin family, and Lin Yu had once been amicable, but everything changed after Lin Yu defeated Shui Beng. They were not outright enemies, but the relationship had chilled. That Shui Qingliu, the adopted heir, was assigned to serve under Lin Yu was Emperor Shui Ye's decision. Shui Ye might not be the most capable ruler, but long years on the throne had given him a sense for political balance. He originally planned for Shui Qingliu to represent the royal family as vice-captain of the royal fighting team, but he hadn't expected Dugu Yan's strength to be so overwhelming. Spirit power determines almost everything among spirit masters. With Dugu Yan so powerful, it would be humiliating to ask her to be subordinate. When everyone had assembled, the disparity in spirit power was striking. Lin Yu was a top-tier figure within the team, and Dugu Yan, who ranked even higher, stood apart. The others, the Shi family brothers, Oscar, Shui Qingliu, and Gexiang, clustered around level 25. Among them, Gexiang stood out for talent. He was truly worthy of being Jie Long's grandson. Hitting Spirit Elder by 14 would be no surprise for him. The Heaven Do Royal Academy would not leave Lin Yu to shoulder the training alone. They assigned assistants, a Spirit Emperor-level instructor named Xiao Bai. Though he looked about 30, Xiao Bai was nearly 50. Unlike Qin Ming's sternness, Xiao Bai and his spirit, Spring Breeze Willow, gave people a gentle, refreshing impression. When Xiao Bai read Lin Yu's roster, a frown crossed his face. "The disparity is massive," he said. "Training them will be difficult to arrange." "That's exactly why I intend a sprint-style plan for the next 5 years," Lin Yu replied. "We'll focus on increasing spirit power while steadily raising their combat experience. It will be resource-intensive." "Fine," Xiao Bai said. "The academy will cover resources. Use the simulated training environments as you need. If necessary, we can petition the education committee at the imperial level. Don't worry about supplies." Xiao Bai's approval meant Lin Yu had access to everything. Spirit masters couldn't cultivate on meditation alone. Simulated environments and materials were crucial to improving cultivation efficiency. Without resources, one could fritter away wealth on ineffective remedies, as in the original timeline, where Yu Xiaogang nearly bankrupted an associate buying blood-activating and stasis-relieving herbs. The Heaven Do Royal Academy was the most heavily funded institution in the Empire, second only to the Spirit Hall Academy. It wouldn't skimp. After finishing his talk with Xiao Bai, Lin Yu left the academy and made for Heaven Do City alone. Qin Ming, passing by the school gate, watched him go. Something unreadable flashed in Qin Ming's eyes. Rather than return to the academy, Qin Ming hailed a carriage and drove off toward the western side of the city. Lin Yu, moving quickly thanks to his spirit, soon reached Heaven Do City. Following a route he remembered, he crossed halfway through the city and arrived at the Great Spirit Arena at its center. It was only the second time he had been here. As a child, he had once been carried by Lin Zhan to watch a few matches and then left. Wearing the academy uniform, Lin Yu attracted many glances as he entered the main gate. Before he could take in the scene, the demon bear whispered in his ear, "Young master, old leopard is back. The Qin Ming you asked him to watch is suspicious. After seeing you leave, he immediately took a carriage to the 7 treasure glazed tile school." Qin Ming's corporate world naivete had made him predictable to seasoned observers. The change Lin Yu had seen in Qin Ming's eyes had not escaped notice. He had not expected, however, that Qin Ming would end up colluding with the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Chapter 86. Receive, Neutralize, and Release. Tai Chi conquers the Strength Clan. Right now, that's probably true. But if the 7 treasure glazed tile school wants to move, they certainly won't let that old man Gurong be the one to act. That would be too disruptive. For safety, they'll at least send spirit saints, maybe even a spirit Douluo. Young master, do you want old leopard and me to launch a surprise attack on them? A faint, cool smile crossed Lin Yu's face. No rush. I'll put on a show here, then I need to visit the Crown Prince's residence. I won't have time for anything else. He didn't continue the conversation. Demon Bear, concealed in shadow, returned the smile. He had to admit it. Lin Yu, this son-in-law of the Angel Clan, was impressive. Demon Bear cared little for the 7 treasure glazed tile school beyond Chen Xin and Gu Rong, the 2 titled Douluo. Everyone else was beneath notice. Still, a few spirit saints or a spirit Douluo was no small matter. He would need to consult the high priest. Demon Bear narrowed his eyes, a chill and danger showing in them, while Lin Yu went to register his soul dueling badge. Unlike Shrek Academy, where students fought under masks and aliases like a child's game, Lin Yu, facing no real threat in Heaven Do City, registered for an Iron Soul Douluo badge under his real name. What followed was awkward. The woman handling registration apologized to him. "I'm sorry, but we don't have any Iron Soul Douluo opponents at the Spirit Ancestor level here. If you want to fight, you'll have to go step by step." Lin Yu was speechless. Go step by step, so she meant he should just go beat up lower-ranked opponents. In Heaven Do City, Iron Soul Douluo normally corresponded to Spirit Grandmasters. Bronze Soul Douluo was mainly Spirit Elders, with a few Spirit Elders reaching Silver Soul Douluo. In the original timeline, the Royal Fighting Team only got to Silver Soul Douluo at high Spirit Elder levels. At Iron Soul Douluo, Lin Yu could only expect to face Bronze Soul Douluo opponents, solid Spirit Elders, typically level 37 and up. After a long wait, Lin Yu finally had an opponent assigned for his first match. On the stage, a man built like an iron tower, bronze skin and eyes like copper bells, glared at Lin Yu as he walked out. Because Lin Yu was a newcomer, almost nobody in the stands cheered for him. Instead, a large portion of the crowd chanted for the tower of a man opposite him. "Tai Li! Tai Li! Strength creates miracles." Hearing the name and seeing the opponent's build, Lin Yu already guessed who it was. Tai Li sneered at him and cracked his knuckles, domineering. "Kid, you've got soft, tender skin. Must be some noble young master who never had to suffer. Call me Grandpa today, and maybe I'll go easy and let you admit defeat. How's that?" Lin Yu's expression cooled. Anger flared behind his eyes. "If you're going to fight, then fight. Cut the crap." "Humph. Refuse a toast, and you'll drink a forfeit." The atmosphere on the soul dueling stage heated quickly, the kind of excitement the arena loved. The referee checked both fighters, then announced, "Begin!" Even a lion hunts a rabbit with full force. Both Lin Yu and Tai Li were extremely cautious despite the taunts. As Lin Yu had expected, the moment Tai Li's spirit manifested, a yellow gorilla phantom flashed out and then vanished. His already hulking frame expanded further, and 3 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, and purple, glowed around him. Tai Li wasted no time activating the first 2 rings. With his strength boosted, he threw a crushing punch at Lin Yu. The Strength Clan pursued absolute power, and their great strength gorilla spirit emphasized raw force. Watching Tai Li's blow approach, Lin Yu felt almost amused. Was this opponent really trying to show off? He did something that stunned everyone. He didn't reveal his spirit at all. He stood with his hands folded behind his back as Ty Lee came in. As Ty Lee closed, Lin Yu dropped his shoulder and elbow and moved his hands with incredible speed. His hands looked soft and yielding, but they carried tremendous power. He wrapped around Ty Lee's palm and at the same time struck at vital points. Ty Lee, who had planned to win with a single, overwhelming blow, was thrown off rhythm and forced into a grappling exchange. No matter how aggressively he tried, he couldn't land even a glancing hit on Lin Yu. Instead, the shock of being pushed back left Ty Lee reeling. Furious, he roared, "You bastard! What spirit ability is that? Why would I tell you?" Lin Yu snapped. As a Wudong disciple, Lin Yu knew the standard Tai Chi fist inside and out. Tai Chi uses softness to overcome hardness, redirecting great force with minimal effort, perfect against Ty Lee and the Strength Clan. Ty Lee, young and hot-headed, lost his temper and slammed his third spirit ring. Strength amplified again, he charged like a maddened bull. "I don't care what you used. Die!" Lin Yu moved in the pattern of the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. His body was light and fluid like a swallow. He deliberately restrained the killing force while striking cleanly at Ty Lee, and the result was instantaneous. The tower-like giant was launched off the stage. No one had expected Lin Yu, who looked ordinary in build, to beat Ty Lee of the Strength Clan without even showing his spirit. The crowd exploded. The referee immediately declared Lin Yu the winner. Arena staff escorted Ty Lee back to the Strength Clan. After the match and registering his victory, Lin Yu didn't leave right away. He waited for a while, then, with Demon Bear's help, rose into the sky above Heaven Do City. Many who had left the arena scattered elsewhere, which made Lin Yu smile faintly. Planning against certain people was too risky otherwise. That was why he'd entered the match. He believed this show would be enough to shock the right people. Stretching casually, Lin Yu looked toward the imperial city. "Sister Shuer, here I come." Chapter 87. Qin Ming delivers the message, 2 sects scheme in the dark. That night, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, the wealthiest sect in the world, its riches enough to rival a small kingdom, was still brightly lit on 7 Treasure Mountain. Built halfway up the slope and facing south, an enormous manor towered over the surrounding residences, far larger than the Lin family home. Only direct descendants of the Ning family and experts of Spirit Saint rank or higher were allowed to live there. At the very center of the manor stood the sect master's great hall, which was rarely illuminated so late. Normally, Ning Fengji, the sect master, would already be at home with his wives at this hour. He seldom lingered in the hall. Tonight, however, urgency had brought him there, looking slightly discomposed despite his usual fastidiousness. By the time he arrived, Gu Rong and Chen Xin, the 2 pillars of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, were already waiting. A young man with light red hair stood respectfully to one side. Ning Fengji approached and asked Chen Xin, "What is it, Uncle Jian? Is there some matter you need to discuss?" Chen Xin nodded. He had never wanted to meddle in this sort of thing, but now that he was a member of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, he had a duty to help. "You mean the young man who came with Qinghe? He formed a royal fighting team today." "Yes, Schoolmaster Ning, everything I tell you is true," the young man said earnestly. Ning Fengji's expression did not change. He wore that practiced, affable smile. "I already knew about this. But why did you come to me instead of going to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect?" His tone sharpened at the end, and Qin Ming, who had been standing there, felt a chill run through him. Chen Xin and Gu Rong's eyes narrowed, their gazes piercing. Facing 2 titled Douluo at once made Qin Ming feel the pressure instantly. He hurried to explain, "Schoolmaster Ning, our young lord already gave me instructions about this. If young Master Tianheng serves as captain, we are willing to give up 3 slots in the royal fighting team." 3 slots, Ning said, voice smooth. "That is generous, but has Emperor Shuye agreed? If he hasn't, we won't get anything. Besides, I'm currently the Crown Prince's teacher. Undermining the Heaven Do royal family is not something I can easily do." Ning put on an expression of guilt so convincing that Qin Ming inwardly cursed the old fox. No one turned away from profit as readily as Ning Fengji, and the value of 3 royal fighting team slots was immense. The resources from the Heaven Do Empire could be used to cultivate talent from the 7 treasure glazed tile school, and selling those slots would bring in huge gains. The Ning family, fixated on spirit evolution, exchanged treasures and rarities constantly for items that could affect the spirit. Ning Fengji himself hungered for anything that might accelerate that evolution. The temptation of trading 3 guaranteed royal fighting team spots for rare treasures was plain. Ning sighed and softened. Well, Xiao Qiang and I are like brothers, and Tian Heng is someone I watched grow up. But don't let Qinghe learn of this, or it will be awkward for me as his teacher. Relief flooded Qinming's face. He bowed quickly. Thank you, Schoolmaster Ning. Gurong waved his hand as if dismissing an errand, and Qinming prudently took his leave. As Qinming's figure disappeared into the night, Ning Fengji's face lost its last trace of concern. A memory surfaced. He had once tried to recruit the young man who had just come on Yu Xiaochang's behalf, the one who had once been the most outstanding teacher of Heavenly Emblem rank at the Heaven Do Royal Academy. He was exceptional before, but now he's crippled. His leg meridians destroyed. A cripple like that won't achieve anything more, Gurong snorted. He had a vivid memory for the geniuses the 7 treasure glazed tile school had failed to recruit, and he could recall those still living more clearly than anyone. Chen Qin sighed. Fengji, think this through. Offending Dugu Bo for 3 royal fighting team slots might not be worth it. Though the Heaven Do Royal Academy lay outside Heaven Do City, it was near enough that any trouble would quickly reach Dugu Bo's ears. The poisonous fog that had once sealed 7 Treasure City was still fresh in their minds. They shouldn't lightly entangle themselves in the blue lightning tyrant dragon sect schemes. I have my reasons. Ning replied. If your attitude had been better earlier, I wouldn't have to get involved. But if Lin Yu grows up, Uncle Jian, you and I both know how dangerous that could be for our school. Chen Qin fell silent, then nodded. If Lin Yu were allowed to develop unchecked, it could spell disaster for the 7 Treasure glazed tile school. Very well. But old man, if it weren't for you, perhaps Lin Yu would already have been one of ours. What a fantasy to have in the middle of the night. Gurong scoffed, and the 2 titled Douluo resumed their familiar bickering. Ning Fengji smiled and pushed his glasses up, the sound of their argument striking him as oddly comforting. He turned his thoughts over. Acting as hired muscle for the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect had its risks, but it also revealed something valuable. Internal divisions in the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect were widening. Aside from the sect master Yu Yuanzhen, who held absolute authority, his son Yu Xiaochang struggled to rally the high-rank spirit masters of his own sect. Compared to the flourishing, tightly governed 7 Treasure glazed tile school under his leadership, Ning felt a surge of pride. Still, he couldn't help a fleeting, dark thought. If Yu Yuanzhen showed weakness, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect's internal strife surfaced, Ning could profit handsomely while ostensibly helping to stabilize their rival. He forced the thought away and forced a small laugh. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect was one of the upper 3 sects, an ally against the Spirit Hall. He could not really wish them ill. Chapter 88, The Reason, Guilt by Possession. After the coronation ceremony, Shui Qinghe's residence was moved from the old prince's mansion to the Eastern Palace. The previous mansion was still kept, but for convenience, Qian Renxue planned to build another secret room in the new bedchamber. Time was short, and the Eastern Palace's inhabitants were more complicated than those at the old mansion, so progress was slow. In the sprawling Eastern Palace, the only truly safe place was the bedchamber. Everywhere else felt like a place where the walls had ears. When they arrived at the Eastern Palace, Lin Yu watched the young woman in the white, gold-embroidered crown prince uniform with some mock resentment. Qian Renshui's golden eyes danced as she reached out and lightly pinched his cheek with a fair, tender finger. Hey, Xiao Wu, she teased. You can't dislike this outfit today. You know my situation is more dangerous now. There are so many more eyes on me. Qian Renxue was right. Now that the person she impersonated, Shui Qinghe, had successfully been installed as crown prince of the Heaven Do Empire, the nobles who had once backed Shui Luochuan were starting to stir. Lin Yu understood that, but one thing puzzled him. He didn't hesitate to ask directly. Sister Shui, the real Shui Qinghe, is already 20 by his age. Didn't Shuye plan to arrange a crown prince's consort for you once you took the throne? Qian Renxue, who had been teasing him a moment before, froze. Xiao Yu, that can't happen, right? Could Shuye force me to accept a consort even if I refuse? Lin Yu's mouth twitched. He didn't comment aloud. He kept the thought that she always gave herself away too easily to himself. He reminded himself that her naivete in love made her easier to win, and he wouldn't say anything to upset her. So he explained, patiently and calmly, the logic of political marriages and reciprocal alliances. Qian Renxue listened, the cheerful liveliness she usually showed around Lin Yu fading as the implications sank in. Sensing her distress, Lin Yu wrapped his arms around her and whispered, Sister Shui, don't worry about it yet. We'll handle it when Shuye brings it up. Knowing now doesn't help. You don't even know who the crown prince's consort would be, right? He soothed her gently, then added a teasing smile to pull her back from darker thoughts. Qian Renxue swatted him playfully and scolded, You just love to bully me. Forget it. Tell me about you. I need to warn you. The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School isn't the only one targeting you this time. They're at most accomplices. Guess who the real masterminds are? She rested her head against his chest, lips pursed, eyes fixed only on him, while her hand stroked his cheek. Though naive about love, she was still the astute holy maiden of Spirit Hall and understood why Lin Yu had interrupted her line of thought. Meeting him had cleansed much of her darkness, but old memories still lingered like knots she hadn't untied. Feeling his concern, she vowed inwardly that one day she would settle accounts with that woman. After a moment of thought, Lin Yu realized that besides the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect had reason to be hostile toward him. Yu Tianheng's resentment was obvious, but the root problem ran deeper. Lin Yu's rise threatened the sect's reputation. He explained softly, Sister Shui, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect's goal probably isn't just to avenge Yu Tianheng, is it? Of course not, she said. Yu Tianheng isn't important enough, but the Heaven Do Royal Academy is. Don't forget, you're being hailed across the Spirit Master world as the Heaven Do Empire's #1 genius, someone with the potential for a title. That's what they resent. You exist not just as a threat to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, she continued, because they're support system Spirit Masters. You, however, are stealing the prestige of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. #1 beast spirit under heaven. I don't know how many people are already gloating over that title, Lin Yu said wryly. Qian Renxue's explanation made everything clear. The old truth revealed itself. An ordinary man may be innocent, but guilt comes from possessing treasure. Lin Yu, just the son of a marquis and a fellow beast spirit user, had eclipsed Yu Tianheng, the heir of one of the Douluo Continent's great sects. That humiliation to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect meant they would not let him continue to rise. They would target him to protect their claim to being the continent's premier beast spirit. The night passed without incident. At dawn, Lin Yu kissed Qian Renshue's tempting cherry lips, bid her goodbye, and strolled toward the outskirts of Heaven Do City. Before he could leave, someone intercepted him. When he saw who it was, he was pleasantly surprised. Long time no see, Uncle Dugu. The man who stopped him was Dugu Xin, the one who should have died in the original timeline. In this life, thanks to Lin Yu, Dugu Xin not only survived, but had broken through to Spirit Saint. 2 years earlier, unable to withstand the relentless efforts of his father and daughter, he had remarried. Lin Yu had also heard Dugu Yan mention that she was expecting a younger sibling. Dugu Xin led Lin Yu to a secluded corner where Dugu Bo was waiting. When Lin Yu arrived, Dugu Bo's old face opened into a broad smile. He patted Lin Yu on the shoulder. You brat, you're doing well. Spirit ancestor at only 12. Your future's boundless. No wonder the little loach from the Yu family is hopping mad. Grandpa Dugu, don't say that, Lin Yu protested with a smile. They do have the #1 beast spirit under heaven. Dugu Bo scoffed, a flash of disdain crossing his emerald eyes. Whether they're the #1 beast spirit or not doesn't matter to me. They're both sub-dragons. How much stronger can they be compared to someone who could reach a title? Xiao Yu, don't worry. As long as it's not Yu Yuanzhen herself who shows up, I can handle a few little loaches without trouble. Chapter 89. Dugu Bo takes the blame. Old dragon Yuanzhen makes his move. The streets leading out of heaven, Do City, grew busier as the day warmed. Lin Yu, who hadn't had breakfast in the Eastern Palace, sat at a stall eating a soft, crispy flatbread and sipping a bowl of hot, sour, spicy offal soup. Under the weak winter sun he ate his fill, left a few copper coins at the bottom of the bowl, and strode out of the city amid the bored attentions of the gate guards. A dozen or more figures clustered at the city gate as well, all hurrying in the same direction, out of the city. Heavendew Royal Academy lay not far beyond. The best place to strike someone heading there was in the thick valley forest that led into the academy grounds, close enough that a single successful blow could let an attacker slip away, yet risky. Failure could easily draw in the academy's 3 education committee members. Because he walked slowly, it took Lin Yu nearly an hour to reach that valley. An old man, who had been waiting for some time and was growing impatient, laughed the moment he saw Lin Yu. "Ha ha ha, brat! Don't say I didn't warn you. Your spirit is too strong. You threaten the Yu family's future. Time for you to disappear." With a roar that shook the valley, Yu Luomian, second leader of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect and direct scion of the Yu family, and 85th rank spirit Douluo, charged and unleashed his 8th spirit skill, dragon-breaking heavenly thunderstrike. From his palm erupted a dragon-shaped bolt of lightning over 20 meters long. The dragon's massive head surged forward, seeming to swallow Lin Yu whole. Against that overwhelming lightning form, Lin Yu looked minuscule, almost as if he might be consumed. Yu Luomian showed no mercy. He had begun with his 8th spirit skill because he intended to finish Lin Yu in one blow. Confident, he watched the thunder dragon converge, and then, as the lightning faded, Lin Yu stood unharmed a short distance away, a half-smile on his face. Yu Luomian's smugness crumpled into fury. "How dare you toy with me? You're courting death!" A mildly sarcastic voice answered him. A kindly-faced old man strode into the valley with 4 stern, powerful middle-aged companions. Each of them bore a small pagoda emblem, elders of the 7 treasure glazed tile school. They showed no sign of concealing their arrival. The old man unleashed his spirit power at once. The pressure was greater than Yu Luomian's. Clearly, he was above the 87th rank, and his spirit manifested as a golden eagle. The 4 men with him were no weaklings either. Each was nearly a spirit saint, spirit power over the 75th rank. Even Dean Flender of Shrek Academy would struggle against one of them. The sudden release of spirit pressure didn't go unnoticed. Meng Shenji, Bai Baoshan, and Jilin, the 3 education committee members of Heavendew Royal Academy, arrived, alarmed. "Stop! Who dares cause trouble at my Royal Academy?" Meng Shenji barked. When the newcomers were revealed as Yu Luomian and the 7 treasure glazed tile school's elders, Meng Shenji and the other 2 exchanged looks. The Golden Eagle's spirit Douluo stepped forward and smiled at the 3 committee members, saying, "Some matters are difficult for the 3 of you. Why not let this old man accompany you?" The 3 committee members and the Golden Eagle Douluo reached an unspoken agreement and answered in unison, "If that's so, we will take instruction from Senior." Together they flew toward the academy's outskirts. Lin Yu felt a flicker of disappointment despite his expectation. Strength and influence had once again outweighed talent. He gave a soft shout. "Uncle Xiong, Uncle Bao, come harvest the corn." Yu Luomian's heart jumped, and in an instant, Devil Bear and Ghost Leopard appeared. They had been waiting in hiding, and using their 7th spirit ability, Martial Soul True Body, revealed their true forms. 2 titled Douluo, both using Martial Soul True Body, and both of such power that even in the darkness they were impossible to miss. The ambush was flawless. Yu Luomian had no time to react. The gap between a titled Douluo and lesser Douluo is enormous. Ghost Leopard, cloaked in black mist, struck like a shadow and harvested Yu Luomian instantly. The 4 spirit saints of the 7 treasure glazed tile school fared no better. Devil Bear, having prepared a long-charged 8th spirit skill, unleashed it and flattened them utterly. Death in their cases was absolute. Far from the valley, within the strength of the 7 treasure glazed tile school and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, Chen Xin, Gu Rong, and Yu Yuanzhen detected the sudden surge of spirit power coming from the direction of Heavendew Royal Academy. The intensity suggested the work of titled Douluo. The distance prevented them from seeing exactly who had moved, but they knew something extraordinary had happened. Inside the seven-treasure glazed tile school, the anxious Chen Qin was already stepping onto his longsword to leave, but Ning Fengji stopped him. His face was serious. "Uncle John, you can't go," Ning Fengji said. "If Qinghe finds out we were involved, it will be very troublesome. I was careless. I didn't expect Dugu Bo to be by Lin Yu's side. Otherwise, old Jin and the others would have succeeded." Chen Qin's arrogance was matched by impatience. He scowled, furrowing his grizzled brows. "So what do we do? Just stand by and let old Jin and the others be?" Ning Fengji sighed and spoke slowly. "This is my fault. Whether old Jin and the others survive now depends on what Dugu Bo chooses to do." More a pragmatist than a consummate sect master, Ning Fengji treated losses as costs he could sometimes accept. A few spirit saints or Douluo might be expendable within his grand plan, but only if the price stayed acceptable. Yuan Zhen, however, who had labored for years to keep the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect from falling apart, was enraged at the thought of losses. A roar like thunder split the sky. "Dugu Bo, if any of my men have been harmed, you will pay for it." Yuan Zhen's body blurred and unfolded into a thunderous dragon dozens of meters long. The old man, who had lain in the storms for decades, burst forth and flew straight toward heaven, Do Royal Academy. Everyone who had seen the incident, even from afar, could only assume one person would be blamed or held responsible. The name that rose in people's minds was Dugu Bo. 90, 5 demon bears, ghost leopards, and thunder. Chapter 90, Ghost Leopard and Magic Bear, Battle the Thunder Dragon. The arrival of the old dragon was immediately felt by the Magic Bear, the Ghost Leopard, and the Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo of the Seven-Treasure Glazed Tile School. Even Gu Rong, who usually acted without hesitation, was taken aback. He had never expected Yuan Zhen to show up in person. It was effectively challenging the Heaven Dew Empire itself. The Empire only had Dugu Bo as a titled Douluo. Against Yuan Zhen alone, they would have to be conciliatory. But if Yuan Zhen acted with the backing of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, the consequences could be far worse. Nobles close to the royal family might distance themselves from the sect, and the sect's influence within the empire could shrink significantly. Yet, none of that seemed to matter to Yuan Zhen in the slightest. His aim was simple, to teach Dugu Bo a lesson. His younger brother had been killed, and no one could be allowed to trample on his family like that. In only a few breaths, the incarnation of the Thunder Dragon had crossed Heaven Do City and flown over the imperial palace. Shuiye, who had been instructing Shui Qinghe, went pale. The precious swan feather pen he held snapped in his hand without his noticing. Droplets of black ink stained his palm as his expression hardened. Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, a truly formidable, top-tier beast spirit, he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Shui Qinghe, standing nearby, rose and bowed respectfully. His voice was calm and refined as ever. "Imperial Father, the path His Excellency Thunder is taking seems to lead straight toward the Royal Academy. I do not know why he is coming here, but that area falls under my responsibility. If anything goes wrong, I should be accountable. I request permission to lead a detachment of royal knights to investigate." Shuiye's expression softened. "Very well. Take 500 royal knights and go to the academy." "Thank you, Imperial Father," Shui Qinghe replied, and left at a brisk pace. With 500 royal knights assembled, he set off toward the Heavendu Royal Academy. At the same time, the Thunder Dragon's avatar appeared above the academy's perimeter. The Magic Bear, who had only recently finished dealing with Yu Luomian, clapped his hands and casually watched Yuan Zhen draw near. Yuan Zhen himself scanned the two strangers, the hulking Magic Bear and the lithe Ghost Leopard, and frowned. He prided himself on having traveled widely and tested his strength against many masters, yet he did not recognize them. Even so, their auras marked them as near equals in power. Calming from his earlier fury at finding his brother, Yuan Zhen nodded politely to the pair. He spoke in a tone that was neither arrogant nor humble. "Fellow practitioners, you are unfamiliar to me. You do not seem to belong to the Heaven Do Empire." The Magic Bear and the Ghost Leopard exchanged a look but said nothing. Both released their martial souls. The Magic Bear, massive, sturdy, an embodiment of offense and defense, extended a bear claw and struck straight at Yu Yuanzhen. The ghost leopard, who had been cooperating with the magic bear for years, melted into the shadows, waiting to move. Yu Yuanzhen, suspended in the air, had not expected such a proactive attack. He had only a moment to react. But he was not an ordinary spirit user. He was the highest-ranked owner of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, the continent's foremost beast spirit. He did not dodge. Instead, he transformed his hand into a blue-purple dragon claw and met the bear paw head-on. The collision was brutal. Both struck with full force. The magic bear, lacking spirit bones, quickly found himself at a disadvantage and was sent flying backward by the impact. Yu Yuanzhen felt a surge of satisfaction. Repelling the magic bear had boosted his confidence. Yet he could not let his guard down. The ghost leopard was still unseen, watching for an opening. Seizing the moment, the ghost leopard activated his martial soul true body and darted in. But Yu Yuanzhen had anticipated this and also activated his martial soul true body. The ghostly leopard form met a matching dragon form, and the two clashed. Before the leopard could be fully repelled, the magic bear lunged again. Even without spirit bones, the magic bear's heavy, earth-shaking strikes were dangerous. Yu Yuanzhen tensed under the pressure. Dragon transformation! He roared. Thunder and spirit force erupted from him as he shifted into a western dragon-like form, enormous wings unfolding from his back. The raw power tore him free of the attacker's reach, and he vaulted nearly 1,000 meters away. From that distance, Yu Yuanzhen's voice carried. I already have a hunch about who you are. Tell me where my brother Yu Luomian is, and I'll let this pass. The magic bear's eyes flashed with contempt. The ghost leopard said nothing. In a single, cold motion, he produced Yu Luomian's almost bisected corpse from a storage spirit tool, lifted it so Yu Yuanzhen could see, then unceremoniously tossed it back into the tool. Lin Yu, who had left earlier, was not there to witness the gesture. Had he been, he would have appreciated the leopard's cruel efficiency. Despite the mutilation, the bond between brothers was strong. In an instant, Yu Yuanzhen recognized the corpse and could not help but cry out, "Brother!" The sound was raw and filled with grief. All the noble students hiding inside the academy felt as if someone had struck them in the chest. Yu Yuanzhen's sanity, already fragile, snapped. Spirit power surged and convulsed within him, chaotic and untamed. He screamed, "Ah! You all deserve to die! I will make you pay for Luomian! Die for me!" Sixth spirit ability, Sky-Breaking Dragon Roar. The single roar ripped across Heaven-Do City. Whether vendor or noble, everyone nearby heard it clearly. Under that thunderous cry, a war between the top experts of the world, the titled Douluo, was about to erupt. Chapter 91, Dugu Bo's second sealing of 7 Treasure City. In heaven. Du City, Shechinge felt a growing urgency and spurred his horse, leading a troop of well-equipped royal knights away at a gallop. When that explosive dragon's roar detonated, an indescribable dragon's might radiated outward. Shechinge himself was unharmed, but the royal knights behind him were not so lucky. Dragons on the Douluo Continent occupy a unique position, existing far longer than humans and spirit beasts. Their noble bloodline exerts a powerful influence. The war horses ridden by the Heaven-Do royal knights, tainted with only a thin spirit beast bloodline, were overwhelmed. One by one, they collapsed, prostrating themselves. The disciplined cavalry instantly turned into disordered infantry. Even so, Shechinge did not give up. He dismounted and personally led the remaining knights toward the Heaven-Do Royal Academy. At the same time, the fight between Yu Yuanzhen and the demon bear and ghost leopard had reached a fever pitch. With the combined amplification of his martial soul true body and dragon transformation, Yu Yuanzhen repeatedly used close combat spirit skills like Lightning Strike and Lightning Dragon Claw. Although the opponent's spirit power was comparable, the 3 spirit bones and the dragon transformation tipped the scale. Yu, even when outnumbered, quietly seized a slight advantage. Still, it was tenuous. The demon bear roared and an 8th spirit ring flared around him. His already formidable claws sharpened, and his gray-brown spirit power extended into a giant spirit claw over 10 meters long, aiming straight for the dragon head form Yu had taken. You did not dare underestimate an 8th spirit skill from a titled Douluo of the same rank. He immediately unleashed his own 8th spirit skill. Dragon Shock Heavenly Thunder Blast. A massive purple-black sphere of lightning spewed from the dragon's mouth and slammed into the demon bear's spirit claw. Both attacks were 8th spirit skills. In the clash, though the age difference between the users was slight, the demon bear fell into disadvantage. There was no other conclusion. The advantages from Yu's 3 spirit bones and dragon transformation were simply overwhelming. Even the level 96 sword Douluo Continent could only evade Yu's edge when facing him. Repelled, the demon bear stepped back as the ghost leopard dashed forward, unleashing a storm of rapid, violent strikes. Surprisingly, Yu's dragon transformation granted him astonishing defense. He withstood the barrage. When the assault ebbed, the ghost leopard, failing to break through, withdrew and rejoined the demon bear's side. "No, he's got dragon transformation. We can't break it," the ghost leopard whispered to the demon bear. He showed no outward emotion, but having partnered with the demon bear for years, the latter sensed his disappointment. As an agility attack system titled Douluo, the ghost leopard's speed and power were considerable, but he lacked a decisive trump card spirit ability. If he had one, he would have shattered Yu's dragon transformation long ago. Their combined efforts, without such a trump card, could at best keep Yu occupied, not let him gain the slight upper hand he had now. Yu Unzhen, exhausted and frustrated from the prolonged fight, took a moment to steady himself. He knew he couldn't hold everyone alone. All he could hope for was that Schoolmaster Ning would hurry to bring Gu Rong and Chen Xin to his aid. At that moment, 2 figures flew in from the north. Before they landed, a voice rang out with mocking laughter. "Long time no see, gentlemen." The newcomers were familiar to the demon bear and ghost leopard, serpent dragon, and sea shui, who normally followed Qian Renxue. Their strength was only level 92, just like Dugu Bo's, but they were still titled Douluo. With their arrival, the fight suddenly tilted into a 4-against-1. Yu and his brother Yuluomian realized, belatedly, that they had been lured into a conspiracy. It was too late for them. The only hope was support from the 7-treasure glazed tile school nearby. Inside the 7-treasure hall, Chen Xin, the strongest among them, detected the first strange spirit power fluctuations, and his expression changed at once. He shouted to Schoolmaster Ning, who had been meditating with closed eyes, "Not good, Fengji. The situation has changed. Hurry and save the old dragon." Schoolmaster Ning trusted Chen Xin without hesitation. He and Chen Xin stepped onto the 7-kill sword. In less than a breath, a flash of swordlight carried them out of 7-treasure mountain. But they emerged to a sight that made their faces fall. The familiar, pervasive dark green mist had once again wrapped the whole of 7-treasure city. "Dugu Bo, what do you think you're doing?" Schoolmaster Ning, usually fastidious about his demeanor, could no longer keep calm. Murderous intent filled his eyes. "How dare you?" Dugu Bo's voice came from within the poisonous mist, mocking. "Heh, Schoolmaster Ning, if you want no one to know, then don't do it yourself. I don't care about your upper 3 sects talk of sharing the same qi and blood. But if anyone lays a hand on my god-grandson, I'm not afraid of you. I'm already a rotten life. If you want Chen Xin to kill me, come and try. It's just a pity about the huge 7-treasure city, this 2nd-ranked 7-treasure glazed tile school." All gentleness gone, Schoolmaster Ning's glare pierced the mist. "How dare you? I'm only giving you a choice, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect and the 7-treasure glazed tile school. You can only save one." Chen Xin immediately activated his spirit power, ready to cut down Dugu Bo. Gu Rong, who had been idly spending time on the back mountain, stepped out as well, a sinister, ruthless look across his face. "Humph. If I'd known this, I shouldn't have listened to Fengji. I should have killed that little bastard already." "Heh, Gu Rong, you call that justice? If you bold enough to step out of 7-treasure city, I'll see your 7-treasure glazed tile school wiped out." Dugu Bo's voice remained resolute from the mist. Faced with Dugu Bo's ultimatum, Schoolmaster Ning and Chen Xin paused. Gu Rong opened his mouth to retort, but a look from Schoolmaster Ning stopped him. Taking a deep breath, Schoolmaster Ning let the fury in his eyes soften, and in a controlled tone, he said, "All right. Since that's your demand, this sect master will give you face. We will remain on 7-treasure mountain today and go nowhere." Between the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect and his own 7 treasure glazed tile school, Schoolmaster Ning made his choice without hesitation. The rhetoric of shared chi and blood fell away the moment his own interests were at stake. Meticulous, calculating, unwilling to lose so much as an inch, that was Schoolmaster Ning's strength and his weakness. In crucial matters, he was always cautious, always choosing to preserve his own. Chapter 92, Thunder. Yuanzhen perishes. While Ning Fengji hesitated over his choice, Shui Qinghe had already led the infantry of the Royal Knights out through the North Gate and taken a long detour to reach Heaven Do Royal Academy. They stopped at the Academy's rear mountain, a cliff hundreds of meters high that only a powerful spirit master could cross. Coincidentally, none of the Royal Knights with Shui Qinghe were such fighters. This was exactly what Shui Qinghe and Lin Yu had planned. Shui Qinghe put on his act. "Generals and soldiers," he said formally, "the coming battle is extremely dangerous. I cannot bear to see you throw your lives away needlessly. I will stay here with you. Once the fighting ends, I will go forward with you to investigate." His words were polite but plain enough. "I won't risk myself under collapsing walls. If you wish, stay with me. If not, do as you please." Finding a fool among the countless men who had joined the Royal Knights was unlikely. As soon as Shui Qinghe finished, the soldiers answered in unison, "We are willing to follow His Highness the Crown Prince." Shui Qinghe relaxed a little, confident the plan would go smoothly. Perhaps fate itself seemed to conspire in his favor. In the dark valley, with the magic bear and ghost leopard in front, and serpent dragon and Sishui supporting, the tide turned quickly. In only about 30 exchanges, Yu Yuanzhen, who had once been able to suppress the magic bear and ghost leopard alone, was battered and close to collapse. The dozens of meters long thunder dragon's hide was carved by terrible jagged wounds. The 2 deepest marks were a bear-like claw and a feline scratch, undoubtedly left by the magic bear and ghost leopard, the bear's blow especially revealing a shimmering, multicolored radiance, the spirit bone on Yuanzhen's right arm. "I've dominated my whole life. Who would have thought I'd die at my own doorstep? How absurd!" Yuanzhen laughed bitterly, glancing toward the other side of Heaven Do City, where the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect lay. They should have arrived long ago, but no one had come. Pride in his sect turned to bitter loneliness. He didn't know when the sect had begun to fracture, lineages vying for power, scheming and betraying. He'd been the pillar holding them together. Absent his force, the sect would have splintered. But his very existence blocked the interests of many elders. Where before his strength had kept them obedient, now they saw an opportunity. Except for Yu Luomian, Yu Xiaoqiang, and a few descendants like Yu Tianheng, most of the elders, those who had lost influence under him, secretly wished for his death. To an outsider, it might seem insane, reckoning to forfeit their standing among the upper sects, but they shared Yuanzhen's conviction that the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon was the preeminent beast spirit. Even without Yuanzhen, they believed a new titled Douluo would soon take its place. Surrounded by cold faces and with no chance of escape, Yuanzhen resolved to end it on his own terms. He activated his final spirit ability. 9th spirit ability, True Dragon's Fury, sound that shakes the 9 heavens. A thunderous, unprecedented roar erupted. Faint strands of blue-purple lightning crawled over Yu Yuanzhen's dragon form, then his entire being was bathed in light. The last roar carried no sorrow, only the power of one who accepted death. As he unleashed the 9th, his dragon body began to elementalize, stretching outward. Just as he prepared to become a 100-meter streak of lightning, the magic bear, ghost leopard, and Sishui struck together with their own 9th spirit abilities. Only Serpent Dragon had no long-range attack to match it. The 3 in concert wielded overwhelming spirit force. No matter how powerful Yu Yuanzhen had been, he could no longer hold out. He was suppressed. His lightning form began to dissipate. Serpent Dragon, waiting for the right moment, moved decisively. Though only level 92, having used his 9th, he was still more than Yu Yuanzhen, already exhausted, could withstand. Man and spear became one. Serpent Dragon condensed into a streak of green light and thrust. Sensing the mortal danger, Yu Yuanzhen instinctively shifted his body. The spear that should have struck his heart missed by a hair, yet the dodge was slight and cost him dearly. As the spear passed his chest, it grazed his right arm. A green flash, and Serpent Dragon's ninth sliced Yuanzhen's right arm clean off like a hot knife through butter. The ghost leopard, having just recovered from his ninth, seized the opening. Yuanzhen's dragon transformation was gone, his spirit power nearly exhausted. He had no defense left. A pitch-black leopard claw sank into his chest. Yuanzhen's life aura faded. The sect master of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, the famed powerhouse of the Douluo Continent, fell here. When it was over, Serpent Dragon, whose strength and spirit power were the least spent, quickly gathered Yuanzhen's corpse. To the pale-faced magic bear and the others who had just fought fiercely, he said, "This place spells trouble. We shouldn't linger. Let's leave." They exchanged glances and silently split off. Serpent Dragon, Magic Bear, Ghost Leopard, and Sishe, each flying toward different directions. The battlefield that had been the scene of such ferocious fighting fell utterly silent. If not for the shattered mountains and ruined waters, no one would have guessed a duel between titled Douluo had happened here, or that one had even perished. As the residual spirit force dissipated, Dugu Bo, who had been watching outside Seven Treasure City, opened his eyes and muttered, "That brat. He only knows how to make this old man do thankless, exhausting work." A smile broke across his weathered face. Still, the kid's capable. To be able to recruit more than one titled Douluo, he's hiding something. He added with curiosity, "But besides being this old man's god-grandson, what exactly is your identity?" Book recommendation: my friend's novel, Douluo, I Raised Qian Renxue into an Internet-Addicted Girl. Chapter 93, Division of Spoils and Schism. Inside Lin Yu's residence on the grounds of Heaven, Do Royal Academy, the four who had accompanied Demon Bear returned after killing Yuanzhen. Their cultivation levels were high enough to keep them invisible. The reason Serpent Dragon and Sishe had arrived later wasn't because they'd done nothing. In fact, they had secured the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School's spirit Douluo, who harbored the Golden Eagle spirit, along with 3 members of the Academy's Education Committee. Lin Yu opened the 4 storage spirit tools one by one. The Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School's treasure was the most impressive: 10 anonymous gold coin crystal cards, all black level, several rare medicinal herbs, and a number of valuable ores. Lin Yu wasn't surprised. The Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School's people had some appraisal ability. Not as precise as the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda spirit, but far better than ordinary folk. The other 3 storage tools, those of Meng Shenji and the Academy committee members, were less spectacular, but still rich. Stacks of gold coin crystal cards quickly formed a small pile 3 fingers high. Just as Lin Yu reached for them, someone moved faster. Qian Renxue, dressed in the Crown Prince's casual clothes, stepped in front of him. She brushed his lips with a light, deliberate kiss, and while his attention was on her, slipped the small stack of crystal cards into her own storage spirit tool. Serpent Dragon and Sishe, used to public displays between the two, didn't react much. Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard, who had only recently begun following Lin Yu, were shocked. To have been told by the High Priest to protect him and now see him intimate with the young miss felt like a betrayal. They quickly looked away, minds buzzing with the need to report this to the High Priest. Qian Renxue's kiss was brief, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of water. She pulled back almost as soon as their lips met. Serpent Dragon and Sishe, having closed their eyes to avoid the scene, opened them and respectfully produced 3 long, dark boxes. Lin Yu knew what they held: spirit bones. Inside the boxes lay 3 spirit bones taken from Yuanzhen's body, each over 50,000 years old, intact and exquisite. They were a right arm bone, a left leg bone, and a right leg bone. All 3 were top-grade bones, ideal for attack type and agility attack spirit masters. The bones gleamed with an inner light, translucent and beautiful, enough to tempt even seasoned Douluo like Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard. But no one dared move until Qian Renxue spoke. She didn't comment on the bones themselves. Instead, she looked at Lin Yu, and he immediately understood her meaning. These bones could tempt anyone, even a titled Douluo. For Lin Yu, however, holder of the life deity legacy, the bones were less necessary. He already wielded the external spirit bone longsword, Clear Frost. If he wanted, he could obtain a full set of 100,000-year level spirit bones, or aim even higher. Unexpectedly, Lin Yu kept the oldest piece, the right leg bone, and put the other two, the left leg and the right arm, toward the four men: serpent dragon, Shishui, demon bear, and ghost leopard. "You four worked hard this time," he said. "Consider these two spirit bones your compensation. Decide among yourselves how to divide them." The four men were stunned. Qian Renxue hadn't expected it either, but she quickly read the situation. Demon bear and ghost leopard were much stronger than serpent dragon and Shishui, yet the younger pair had always been the ones who watched over her. Softly stroking Lin Yu's hand, she said, "If that's your decision, then so be it." Even Qian Renxue, with her usual strong will, had learned to yield, at least where Lin Yu was concerned. With Lin Yu's suggestion and her gentle assent, the two pairs of uncles, who in the original timeline would never have seen spirit bones their whole lives, finally acquired them. While Lin Yu and Qian Renxue quietly divided the spoils, a very different scene unfolded for the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. The sect, based in Blue Tyrant City, near Heaven Do City, had long been one of the continent's powerhouses. Its city had once been prosperous and bustling, protected and sustained by the sect. Now its streets lay silent. The prosperity of yesterday had withered. About 10 from Blue Tyrant City, in a valley of strange rock formations that housed the Yu family, the situation was worse. Courtyards and houses dotted the valley, but the largest building was still the Thunder Hall, presided over by the sect master, now vacant. Inside, elders from the main and branch families sat on opposite sides of the hall, forming a cold, tripartite standoff against the direct lineage, which was led by Yu Xiaoqiang. Compared with the many main and branch families, Yu Xiaoqiang and the direct descendants were weak. None of them even held a spirit Douluo's rank. Just days earlier, Yu Xiaoqiang had laughed and charmed nobles in Heaven Do City. Now he stood livid, trembling as he pointed at the spokesman for the families. "You stood by and did nothing. Fine, but father's body is not even cold, and you want to destroy the sect?" A Yu family elder of Spirit Douluo rank from the main family smiled with thin politeness. "Not at all. We're only trying to find a way out. Show us some face, young lord. Don't make this harder." Yu Xiaoqiang's outrage drained from him. He had been living in the illusion of the upper three sects' favor and had never realized the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect was a sinking ship without Yu Anzhen. The pressure broke him. He fainted before he could say another word. The younger members of the direct lineage recoiled in alarm, unwilling to approach. Only a woman in red, her black hair flowing, stepped forward. With a soft sigh, she helped Yu Xiaoqiang to his feet, steadying him amid the trembling household. Chapter 94, The Cursing High Priest, and the Responses from All Sides. The fall of Yu Anzhen, the mighty sect master of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, sent shockwaves across the continent. Everywhere, the conversation circled back to one organization, the Spirit Hall. In the world of spirit masters, the only force likely and capable of taking down a titled Douluo whose spirit power had reached 95 was the Spirit Hall. That assumption spread quickly, not just as idle gossip among low-level spirit masters, but pushed by someone nursing a private grievance. "Haha, just as I thought. Ning Fengji, the Spirit Hall can't deny this, no matter what they say. This will give that woman, Bibi Dong, a headache." Gurong laughed heartily in the main hall of the 7-treasure glazed tile school. Dugu Bo had blocked their gates again, forcing them to watch as Yu Anzhen was struck down, and the mood in the hall had gone sour. It wasn't hard to reach that conclusion. Only a handful of powers on the Douluo Continent could match a titled Douluo of Yu Anzhen's caliber, and of those, the Spirit Hall was the only one that commonly dealt in such decisive measures. The moment Ning Fengji heard of Yu Anzhen's fall, he'd pegged the Spirit Hall as responsible. Rubbing the gem-inlaid scepter in his hand, the usually composed man could not hide a satisfied sigh. "This action is well within our means. For now, let's consider this matter settled." "What about Blue Tyrant City?" he added. "The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect is tearing itself apart. The city they govern will be affected. Sword Uncle, you two should discuss how to protect the merchants' interests in Blue Tyrant City from being trampled." There it was, Ning Fengji's true aim. Blue Tyrant City had been under the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect's control for generations. As the sharpest businessman on the Douluo Continent, Ning Fengji couldn't miss the chance to profit from a prosperous city in chaos. Chen Xin and Gu Rong, long used to working with him, had gradually acquired his mercantile instincts. When Ning Fengji mentioned Blue Tyrant City, both titled Douluo felt their interest peak. "Very well," one said. "For the sake of the innocent people in Blue Tyrant City, Fengji, handle this carefully." While the leaders of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School planned how to protect Blue Tyrant City, the Spirit Hall, at the center of the unfolding storm, presented an odd picture of noise and quiet. The uproar came from the common rooms and meeting halls. The quiet was supposed to be the Hall of Worship, a venerable but usually unassuming branch of the Spirit Hall, except that the Hall of Worship wasn't very quiet at all. Its high priest was currently cursing up a storm. "What the hell is that brat trying to do, stirring up all this trouble? How do we face the world after this?" Qian exploded. "And that girl, Renxue, she lets him run wild and even has Serpent Dragon and Sishui assist him. Does she think she can do whatever she pleases? Does she even care what I, her grandfather, think anymore?" Beside him, Golden Crocodile, the eldest among the elders, sipped his tea with a bored curl to his lip. The other 5 priests tried, in fits and starts, to calm Qian. They'd long been used to Qian Renxue dipping into her grandfather's personal funds. It had been a semi-open secret in the Hall of Worship for years. Since Tang Chen's disappearance, they had seldom seen Qian suffer any true setback, and unlike the resentment he'd once carried toward Tang Chen, Renshue's requests didn't so much inflame him as leave him speechless and a little poorer. Given how small the Hall of Worship was, no amount of fussing could make it anything other than a quiet, contained affair. The Supreme Pontiff Palace, however, was different. Decked in gold and white and filled with inscriptions and images of powerful spirits, seraphim among them, the palace buzzed with factional arguments. Forces under the Spirit Hall's banner, especially the 4 lower sects, whose loyalty was more nominal than real, were locked in heated debate with Spirit Hall lineage masters. The subject: whether to annihilate the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. The quarrel had dragged on so long that the master of the palace finally emitted a soft, displeased hum. At once, the palace fell silent. All eyes turned toward the Supreme Pontiff's throne. A woman of moderate height, clad in a black robe embroidered with gold and wearing a 9-bend purple-gold crown, sat there with a 2-meter scepter inlaid with countless gems resting by her side. Her skin was fair, her features near perfect, and the noble bearing she carried made those present feel the urge to prostrate themselves. She was Bibi Dong, the Supreme Pontiff of the Spirit Hall. "Keep arguing. Why did you stop?" she asked, her voice cool and dismissive. Her few words stilled the room, and the various leaders fell into line. "We will abide by the Supreme Pontiff's decree," they said in unison. Bibi Dong looked every inch the grand ceremonial figure, but there was no mistaking the strength in her bones. She scanned the faces around her and, thinking quickly, weighed the possibilities. The Hall of Worship had been unusually quiet lately. If they were behind this, it would be one thing. But if the Hall of Worship weren't responsible, if some new, unknown power had emerged on the Douluo Continent, then the hazard would be far greater. She decided not to rush. She would personally go to the Hall of Worship to inquire, hoping it was nothing more than the old men's schemes. Turning back to the assembly, she issued her orders plainly. "The sect master of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect has fallen. Our Spirit Hall must investigate and uncover the truth. As for the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect itself, since it's already divided and weakened, lend your support and see that their internal collapse continues." The Supreme Pontiff Palace wasn't yet strong enough to consolidate the continent by force. It needed time. In the meantime, Bibi Dong saw an opportunity. If the sect could be allowed to tear itself apart, future resistance to the Spirit Hall's plans would be reduced. As for the whispering accusations against the Spirit Hall, she had already suspected an old rival, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, perhaps even Ning Fengji personally. After all, few others had both the motive and the nerve for such a move. Ning Fengji had the inclination to interfere, and while he could be ruthless in his own right, Bibi Dong knew full well that when it came to playing dirty, his methods were crude compared to hers. Chapter 95, Beauty is Justice. Dugu Yan's obsession with becoming stronger. Even though a good deal of time had passed since Yuan Zhen's death, Heaven-Do City still churned with talk. The gossip had tapered, no longer the fevered murmurs of the common streets, but a handful of nobles with loose ties to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect who still speculated. That was the world's way. People died, events passed, and life carried on. Most were still busy with their own futures or livelihoods. In a quiet alley of Heaven-Do City stood the Dugu family residence. Inside, Lin Yu and Dugu Bo sat facing one another. 14-year-old Dugu Yan, who had grown into a striking young woman with a slender, graceful figure, hovered nearby pouring tea whenever the two men's cups ran low. Lin Yu had been there a long time and had drunk his fill, but Dugu Bo, lost in meditation, showed no sign of speaking. Lin Yu could only glance at Dugu Yan, who sat leaning over the table, staring into the teapot, silently pleading for help. Dugu Yan caught the look and her eyes flashed. She was about to step in and break her grandfather's silence when Dugu Bo, unable to maintain the pretense any longer, cleared his throat. The sound jolted Lin Yu upright and drew a tiny pout from Dugu Yan. At the interruption, Dugu Bo's austere face softened into a warm smile as if a chrysanthemum had bloomed. "Yan, go out and play for a while," he said. "If you're bored, go talk to your stepmother. This boy and I have something to discuss." Smart as she was, Dugu Yan knew exactly what he meant. Irritated, she rolled her eyes. "I know." "Talk then. I'll go." She left, hips swaying as she walked, the movement drawing Lin Yu's gaze despite himself. Once they were alone, Dugu Bo fixed Lin Yu with a steady look. "Kid, spit it out. Your godfather here has a big heart and can handle it." Seeing Dugu Bo prepared to listen, Lin Yu summarized his situation, leaving Qian Renshue's private matters unspoken. He mentioned the two titled Douluo stronger than him, Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard, and watched Dugu Bo's expression fall into a brief shadow of shame. When he finished, Lin Yu added with a wry edge, "It's funny, me, a Spirit Hall saint, and I haven't even been to the Spirit Hall yet." "That's enough, kid." Dugu Bo waved a hand. "You get benefits and act modest. I'll never understand why those elders at the Spirit Hall took to you. What, is it because you've got a pretty face?" Dugu Bo's tone was half mocking, half envious. He could not reconcile how a young man like Lin Yu had won Chandalu's favor. Was it some hidden merit, or merely luck? Lin Yu, touching his still boyish cheek, forced a smile. "You'd be surprised. Sometimes looks matter." Dugu Bo huffed. "All right, business. Because of you, I've offended the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School. If those two old fogies come at me, you must save your godfather. Otherwise, you'll be picking out mourning clothes." "Isn't that obvious?" Lin Yu said lightly. Dugu Bo's face darkened, and he smacked Lin Yu on the head. "Don't be ridiculous. I've still got 100 years left in me. I want to see Yan marry and have children. All right, godfather. I owe you this one. I won't stand by if anything happens." Lin Yu moved behind Dugu Bo, casually massaging the older man's shoulders, then set a long, dark box on the table. Without waiting, he opened it. Inside lay a single bone, a left-arm spirit bone, pale and smooth like jade, giving off a faint bluish glow. Dugu Bo stared. What is this?" "It's a left-arm spirit bone from a 40,000-year-old azure demon vine," Lin Yu said. "Best suited for you, godfather. I took it from the spoils of our last battle." Recognition and astonishment flitted across Dugu Bo's face. "That's the one I tried to get from that good-for-nothing Jilin. I wanted it for Yan back then. I almost pledged loyalty to the Heaven-Do royal family for a chance at it, but I refused. Who would have thought?" Lin Yu had heard that old story before. He smiled. "Seems it was always meant for Sister Yanzi. I just recovered it." Dugu Bo tucked the spirit bone away with a satisfied nod, and as if on a different tangent, added, "If you really like Yan, this old man can help. Ah Xin would back you too." The words froze Lin Yu for a moment. He forced a smile and shook his head. "You've forgotten. Yan isn't a girl who chases romance anymore. Ever since that business with Yu Tianheng and his family failed, she threw herself into cultivation. She wants to get stronger. I wouldn't be surprised if she breaks through to spirit ancestors soon and catches up to me." Dugu Bo's expression softened. The past few years had changed Dugu Yan. The humiliation inflicted by Yu Tianheng's scheming had steeled her. She obsessed over cultivation, hungry for strength above all else. Romance was no longer her concern. She avoided it deliberately. Even with Lin Yu, who had once been like a favored younger brother, her feelings had settled into a clear, simple sibling affection. As a grandfather, Dugu Bo wanted his granddaughter to stay in the family, but he knew life had its courses. Men and women would marry when the time came. He didn't want Yan Yan to regret anything. Lin Yu thought of others who had tried to push him into matches. Lin Zhan and his wife, always arranging blind dates, and couldn't help but feel wry. Good fortune should stay in the family, he supposed, but for now, both the Dugu household and himself were fixing their sights elsewhere. On power, on improvement, and on the uncertain storms that might come from fractured alliances and offended sects. Beauty might open doors, but strength would keep them open. Chapter 96, The Fleeting Divinity Seal Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena. In one of the soul dueling divisions, the stands roared as the crowd cheered the two fighters on the ring. Amid the clamor, the names heard most often were Shi Mo and his second brother. The Shi brothers stood shoulder to shoulder, each holding a black shield etched with the fierce markings of a turtle-type spirit beast, the manifestation of their black tortoise spirit. Under a barrage of full-force strikes from two spirit grandmasters, they defended relentlessly and inched forward. In a few more meters, they would force their opponents off the ring. Seeing defeat approaching, the brothers' opponents signaled surrender to the referee. A whistle blew. The referee declared the Shi brothers the winners and told them to step down and register, clearing the ring for the next duel. In a private box on the top level of the arena, Qian Renxue dozed with one fair arm draped around Lin Yu's neck. She yawned and mumbled sleepily. "Is it over?" Sister Shuer fell asleep again, Lin Yu replied, a trace of worry in his voice. He pressed his forehead to hers and murmured, "I didn't expect Shuye to be like this. Over the past 6 months, he's barely given you a moment's rest, dumping so many state affairs on you while he wastes his days in a harem." Qian Renxue, eyes half-lidded, snuggled against him like a golden cat and tightened her arm. "Isn't that because of you?" she teased. "If you hadn't set things in motion 6 months ago, not only killing Yu Yuanzhen, but also wiping out the people from the 7-treasure glazed tile school and the 3 members of the Heaven Do Royal Academy's education committee, how would Shuye have ended up like this? Lately, he's been acting strange. From what Uncle Shi gathered, it looks like he's already making preparations for the Heaven Do Empire's downfall." Lin Yu had to laugh. Shuye's present indulgence in pleasure and neglect of state affairs was really born of fear. Terrified of the inevitable, he'd chosen to enjoy himself until the end rather than resist. But his choice meant Qian Renxue carried the burden of governance. Historically, short reigns weren't only caused by harem revolts, they were also the result of the overwhelming workload. Those pressures split rulers into 2 extremes: incompetent figureheads and power-hungry sovereigns. Shuye had once been neither. After the desperate battle at the Heaven Do Royal Academy 6 months ago, however, he gave up, choosing incompetence as a refuge, planning only to enjoy the present. He had already prepared for the empire's fall and intended to hand the throne to Shui Qinghe, the prince who would preside over the collapse. Shuye had begun secret preparations, sending trusted men to the mysterious far north land to construct an underground imperial palace. He thought his revelry shrouded everything in secrecy. What he didn't realize was that he couldn't hide from the 2 guards shadowing Qian Renxue day and night. Serpent Dragon and Xishe might not match Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard in raw combat, but they were titled Douluo. Remaining concealed without using spirit power, they could listen undetected atop Shuye's sleeping quarters and had pieced together the Emperor's so-called hidden plans. When Qian Renxue finished, Lin Yu stroked her smooth cheek and said lightly, "Sister Shuer, if you want the Heaven Do Empire to descend into chaos, you could eliminate Shuye and the royal family overnight. If you want to take control without bloodshed, it will take more time and care. I can help, at least enough so you won't be running around every minute of the day." Her playful banter faded into thought. At first, she had come to the capital to spite that woman, but now the consequences weighed on her. She and Lin Yu together could shatter the royal family and plunge half the Douluo Continent into war, and once war started, Spirit Hall could seize the chance to swallow the empire. But Qian Renxue didn't want to be the cause of such mass suffering. Years in the Hall of Worship, and her slow coming to terms with the world's harsher truths, had changed her. She found herself unwilling to unleash devastation on the people she would ultimately be responsible for. As Lin Yu watched her decide, a sudden shimmer crossed Qian Renshue's smooth forehead. For an instant, a golden angel wing pattern flashed and then vanished. Lin Yu's brow tingled with recognition. Having received the legacy of the life deity, he knew the sign of a divinity's legacy when he saw one. That fleeting mark was the angel god's divinity seal. But she had told him she hadn't begun her god test. What did this mean? At the same time, the emerald life divinity seal between Lin Yu's own brows pulsed briefly and faded. A cascade of knowledge from the god realm rushed through him, illuminating things in an instant. Qian Renxue looked up at him then, smiling with a fresh, mischievous light. "I've made up my mind," she said. "Xiao Yu, you have to help me properly, or I won't have time to be intimate with you." They shared a light kiss, then reluctantly parted. As she left, Lin Yu's smile softened into calm resolve. He felt unease at Shuiye's behavior. It all seemed disturbingly familiar. Chapter 97, Royal Fighting Team Changes Hands, Seed of Life Sprouts. Lin Yu left the top-floor private room of the branch Soul Dueling Arena and went straight to the private suite beside the main ring in the Heavendu Grand Spirit Arena. He knocked lightly, and Shi Mo, who had just come down from the ring a little while earlier, opened the door with a loud, hearty laugh. "Captain, you're here too." At the sound of his name, the 5 members, everyone except Dugu Yan, who was still deep in cultivation, stood up. Even Shui Qingliu, Shui Xing's adopted son, who normally kept his distance from Lin Yu, rose and, along with the others, called out in unison, "Hello, big brother." Their synchronized bow was so precise it looked rehearsed. Lin Yu's face darkened. "All of you, get out of here. Quit wasting time with these stunts." They straightened immediately, like men sprung to attention. Beyond the tall, muscular Shi brothers and the slightly nervous Shui Qingliu, Lin Yu's gaze landed on Oscar, who had tried to look indifferent. "Was this your idea, kid?" he asked. Oscar stiffened, then broke into obsequious flattery that ran totally counter to his earlier aloofness. "Captain, it's just to show your status. You beat all 6 of us every time. With your strength, even in Spirit Hall, no one under 15 or 20 can match you, boss." "Enough. It's been half a year. Don't tell me how hard you've worked. I only care about results." One by one, they reported their cultivation ranks. Half a year was no small stretch. Lin Yu knew what they were capable of. Starting with Oscar, 27th rank Spirit Grandmaster, only 1 rank better than 6 months ago. Whether he'd been lazy or simply steady, he hadn't improved much. Shi Mo and his elder brother were 27th and 28th rank respectively, up 1 and 2 ranks. The Shi brothers' progress matched Lin Yu's expectations. Both were innate rank 7, though Shi Mo had only just reached it and lagged a little behind his brother. Jie Xiang, Lin Yu's peer, had gained 2 ranks and was now at the peak of 26th rank, nearly breaking into the 27th. He had climbed out of the fighting team's bottom slot. Shui Qingliu had also improved from 26th to 27th rank. Despite his privileged background and respect for Lin Yu, his laziness prevented faster progress. Lin Yu felt Dugu Yan was on another level entirely. "Shi Mo, second brother, Gei Xiang, Oscar, you've done all right. I won't nitpick the rest. Sister Dugu, why don't you say something to motivate them?" Dugu Yan, who had been cultivating since Lin Yu entered, opened her clear, beautiful eyes at his voice and said without changing posture, 42nd rank Spirit Ancestor. Then she closed her eyes and sank back into meditation. The 5 lower-ranked members of the Royal Fighting Team let out audible gasps. Oscar pulled a rueful face at Lin Yu. "Boss, you can't really compare us to her." "Why not? You're all innate rank 7. Oh, right, I almost forgot. Sister Yan is a girl, so that makes you all officially inferior." Lin Yu shot back with the sharp tongue he had picked up in another life. After a bit of teasing, their spirits dampened. Lin Yu produced several jade boxes and, with precise spirit power control, placed one in each of the 5 members' hands. Oscar, whose spirit beast was the ghost leopard, couldn't contain himself and was the first to pry his open. Inside rested a pristine, white, jade-like snow lotus. Even if he didn't know the exact treasure, The invigorating fragrance made it clear this was no ordinary gift. They thanked Lin Yu and stowed the lotus with reverence. Night had deepened, and Lin Yu stretched, a little tired. That's it for today. Go back and cultivate properly. Don't eat those until you break through. He left the private room and vanished into the crowd of the Great Spirit Arena. Using his father's token, he forced the east gate of Heaven Do City open and flew toward the Heaven Do Royal Academy. As he landed in front of his small house, Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard, now dressed in the red robes of the Academy's Education Committee, slid out of the shadows in unison. "Greetings, young master." "I'm only a student," Lin Yu replied lightly. Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard exchanged a knowing look and then scowled playfully. "Young master, don't joke. We only became Education Committee members because you arranged it." Under Lin Yu's direction, and with Crown Prince Shui Qinghei's cooperation, the two hidden guardians had quietly taken control of the academy. Over the last 6 months, Lin Yu had also planted Spirit Hall-affiliated instructors into the faculty. Apart from the original teachers and some noble students, the academy had effectively come under Spirit Hall's influence. After chatting a moment with his two bodyguards, Lin Yu returned to his small room. He sat on the bed, entered meditation, and linked to the Wood Spirit Chi inside the Wood Spirit Scroll. As usual, he used it to water the seed of life he kept in his sea of consciousness. The Wood Spirit Chi saturated the vibrant green seed. Then there was a crisp, cracking sound that made Lin Yu's heart jump. He focused inward and saw a tiny fracture appear on the shell he had tended for so long. The more chi he poured in, the wider the crack grew until a tender, perfectly round green leaf pushed free of the shell. At the same moment, that most familiar, gentle as jade, soul-stirring voice he had always known resonated in his consciousness. Chapter 98, Ultimate 5-Element Essence, God Test. Plant a tree? The second life God test, catalyzing the seed of life, is complete. Now, what reward shall I give you? At the voice, Lin Yu immediately knew his senior sister had returned. In his sea of consciousness, he was the dominator of everything. A quick search revealed her perched on a branch of the ancient tree of life, the goddess of life in an emerald gown. Her slender fingers tapped her chin as her emerald eyes studied him. Life divinity was different from other divinities in the god realm. Combat power mattered less, but spirit power and spirit rings still counted. Beyond that, the goddess of life seemed at a loss for what else to teach her precious disciple. She sat fidgeting on the tree, brows occasionally furrowing, carefree by nature, but unexpectedly stumped this time. After a long silence, she turned to Lin Yu and smiled. "Good disciple, I really can't think of a reward. Make a request. If it's reasonable, I'll grant it." Lin Yu hesitated. Remembering the affinity conditions from the original timeline, he asked, uneasy, "Senior sister, am I highly compatible with your divinity?" "Of course, otherwise I wouldn't have chosen you. But my life divinity and Little Z's god of destruction divinity are peculiar. They require 100% innate compatibility. I waited who knows how long and only found you. So you must come to the god realm. I've said too much. Tell me what reward you want." The goddess of life inwardly cursed herself for almost revealing a secret and patted her chest, relieved. Lin Yu didn't notice the fluster. He hadn't expected the inheritance threshold for life and destruction divinities to be so strict. No wonder the orthodox god kings, the god of evil and the god of kindness, left. Only the goddess of life and the god of destruction remained, stuck in the god realm. When Lin Yu had made up his mind about the reward, he spoke. "I once read in an ancient book that this world has some uniquely powerful elemental attributes." The goddess of life's brows tightened as she realized what her disciple wanted. As the oldest divinity in the god realm, she knew all the subordinate planes under its control. In theory, ultimate attributes shouldn't exist on the Douluo Continent. But among the god realm's planets was a place called the Wuxing Continent, the birthplace of ultimate attributes. As its name suggested, it contained the 5 elements Lin Yu needed for his first spirit evolution: wood, fire, water, metal, and earth. Each element even split into 2 branches, Bing Fire and Ding Fire, Jiao Wood and Yi Wood, Ren Water and Gui Water, Geng Metal and Shin Metal, Wu Earth and Ji Earth. That place belongs to that annoying fellow. You really like making things difficult for me, don't you? The goddess of life grumbled, rubbing Lin Yu's head with a hand as fair and smooth as jade, half indulging him like a pet. Realizing this was his first request, she rolled her eyes and whispered before vanishing from his sea of consciousness. Wait here. I'll go see what I can do. Has someone not been able to gather them before? Have you forgotten that Jidong and Li Yan are on the Wuqing continent? Before leaving, she gave a token reward for passing the god test. Each spirit ring of the wood spirit scroll was advanced by 5,000 years in age, and his spirit power rose by 2 levels. She then issued the third life divinity test: transform a plant into a tree and continue to cultivate the tender sprout that emerges from the seed of life until its stem lignifies. Moonlight lay clear in the sky. Lin Yu surfaced from his sea of consciousness stunned and a little speechless. The third test was simply to plant a tree? His senior sister really wanted him to plant trees. He checked his status with the new rewards, a level 48 spirit ancestor, and he was still under 13. Even Qian Renxue, with an innate spirit power of level 20, hadn't reached that. Thinking of the senior sister, a complicated expression crossed his face. Then he shook it off and muttered to himself, "What was I thinking? She's just herself." Lin Yu opened the cultivation dungeon in his room and casually carried a basket of radishes, leaves, and vegetables downstairs. The dungeon lights glowed under his control. A rustling and a terrified stare met him. A ragged, dirty, rabbit-eared little girl, no more than 6 or 7, watched him with wide, red-rimmed eyes. When Lin Yu approached, her glare hardened. Though small and seemingly harmless, she hissed words cold as ice. "Damn human. If you don't let me go, Da Ming and Ming will kill your whole family, make them suffer worse than death." The rabbit-eared girl was Xiao Wu, the rabbit girl Lin Yu and Qian Daliu had captured in Nuoding City and hadn't yet properly met. In his previous life, Lin Yu had wondered how someone who'd survived in a jungle where only the strong lived, backed by spirit beasts, could remain so naive. As a former 100,000-year beast king, Xiao Wu showed the arrogance of a spirit beast. Almost every time Lin Yu fed her, she spat threats. He'd often answered harshly until she had no strength to speak, and over time he grew indifferent. Bullying a rabbit was pointless. Each time he left food, he left amid her curses. This visit was the same until he reached the stairs and saw her wolfing down a carrot. She glared fiercely and shouted, "Damn human, don't think I'll sacrifice myself just because you want me to." Lin Yu paused, then smiled faintly. "Thanks for the reminder. I'll make you willing." Chapter 99, Hidden Snow Star. Only sword and I Shuixing's endurance. Only the sword, only me. Listening to Lin Yu's words, Xiao Wu, the soft-boned rabbit king who was fiercely gnawing a carrot, immediately soured and kept thinking about what she might have said wrong. Rabbits are usually clever, but those on the Douluo Continent are an exception. Unable to recall any misstep, Xiao Wu grew drowsy after a few more bites and promptly fell asleep. Lin Yu, murmuring, "I really have to thank you. If you hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have thought of it," felt the exhaustion sweep over him as well. His eyelids grew heavy, and he too fell asleep. While Lin Yu slept soundly, in the prince's mansion in Heavendoe City, second only to the palace in size, Shui Qingliu, who had been deliberately ignored by Lin Yu during the commentary at the Heavendoe Great Spirit Arena, was meticulously recounting every detail to his adoptive father, Shui Xing. "Adoptive father, I'm telling you, that brat Lin Yu just looks down on me. If I'd known, I never would have joined the royal fighting team. If I'd served under you, I'd be a 1,000-man captain by now." Unlike the cunning Shui Xing, Shui Qingli was hot-headed. Lin Yu hadn't even targeted him. A simple snub was enough to set him off. Shui Xing listened, automatically filtering out the more exaggerated parts of his son's tale. He replied slowly, "I know about this, Qingliu, but you must remember you represent the face of the Heavendoe royal family. If you can't endure a little humiliation, how will the world view us?" Shui Qingli was lazy in some ways, but not foolish. He knew everything he had came from his respected, powerful adoptive father, so he agreed. "You're right, adoptive father, but I've also heard rumors about His Majesty the Emperor." At the mention of the palace, Shui Xing's expression darkened. "I didn't expect palace news to spread so quickly that even you have heard it. My imperial brother may be weak, but it's not my place to criticize him. Besides, The Heaven-Do Empire isn't completely without allies. Though our ties with Dugu Bo have cooled and his honored retainer title is mostly symbolic now, don't forget your cousin Shui Qinghe. His master is Ning Fengji. That old fox always had his own motives. As long as he wants to remain the prestigious leader of the world's second-largest sect and keep the vast wealth of the seven-treasure glazed tile school, he won't betray us. He'll protect the Heaven-Do Empire. Hearing Xuexing's confidence, Shui Qingliu hesitated. That may be true, but what if? Where would that what if come from? Xuexing cut in. The seven-treasure glazed tile school is powerful. Its forces deeply rooted. Even the spirit hall couldn't destroy it overnight. The night passed. Lin Yu woke early in his small house, washed up, fed the rabbit in the dungeon, and then headed straight for the Education Committee building, now the office of the Demon Bear and the Ghost Leopard. He didn't go in to find them, though. Instead, he walked to the back mountain of the Education Committee building, to a supersized simulated environment the Heaven-Do royal family had built for committee members or Heaven-Do level teachers to cultivate in. That simulated environment was the only resource in the original timeline that could increase cultivation efficiency. When Lin Yu first arrived at the Heaven-Do Royal Academy, he had tried it in a super-large bird's nest. Compared with the unconditional doubling of cultivation speed given by the Wood Spirit Scroll's second spirit ability, Qi through 8 meridians, the environment's effect was modest, maybe a 10% increase at best. For most people, that was precious. For Lin Yu, it was merely useful. The main reason he came was quiet. It offered peace for cultivation. Along the path he walked, dense, meticulous traces of sword intent threaded the air, clearly his work. Over the past 6 months, he had been working toward the next step beyond sword intent, sword domain. Using his own sword intent as a domain was not the standard Douluo Continent technique of a small circle that weakens opponents and boosts oneself by percentages. The sword is a weapon of slaughter. Sword intent is intangible, formless. It only shows as threads of white silk when Lin Yu deliberately mixes it with spirit power. With the Qingshuang longsword in hand, Lin Yu practiced the steps of the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. The blade flashed like a swimming dragon, its clear light playing with shadow. Streaks of sword intent gathered as he wielded it. At first, Lin Yu had thought that simply releasing and stacking sword intent would produce a sword domain. He was wrong. Intent and domain exist on completely different levels. Sword intent could be achieved with talent and effort, but sword domain stood above it. The gap between perfecting sword intent and achieving sword domain was greater than that between mastering refined sword techniques and perfect sword intent. Lin Yu was caught between them. One small step remained to reach sword domain, but that step had stalled him for half a year. People say some hear the Tao in the morning and can die that evening. Others run out of lifespan while stuck at this threshold, while some suddenly leap to comprehension. It wasn't something talent or resources could decide anymore. This step depended on the heart. The stronger the heart, the greater the chance of sudden understanding. As the Qingshuang sword threw out streaks of cold light, Lin Yu fell into a deep, mysterious state. What is the sword? A tool for killing. What is a domain? A territory, a boundary, a space within which a certain order holds. What is a sword domain? Within that domain, there is only me and my sword. In an instant, Lin Yu reached an epiphany. The Qingshuang cried out, and the sword intent he had gathered suddenly dispersed, yet it did not simply vanish. Within 100 meters, the sword struck like an awakened dragon. Without ostentation or excess momentum, nothing could block it, nothing remained whole. That was sword domain. Inside it, the sword ruled heaven and earth. Only I am the sword. I am the dominator. With his realization, every tree and animal within that 100-meter radius died instantly. This wasn't the inherent destructive nature of the sword domain, so much as the result of Lin Yu failing to control his spirit power in a burst of excitement after the breakthrough. The unstable sword domain and the surge of spirit power collided, and the price was that small patch of simulated forest. Only then did Lin Yu realize he was short on funds and would have to pay a visit to his sister's rooms that night. Chapter 100. The Noble Council, Qin Ming's Escape to Slaughter City. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. Inside the Crown Prince's bedchamber, within the newly cultivated secret room, Qian Renxue stood in a pure white silk dress before Lin Yu. In her hand was an allocation approval written in imitation of Qinghe's handwriting. Lin Yu had been planning, half-jokingly, to borrow some gold from Sister Shui's private hoard. After all, she rarely needed to spend it. He hadn't expected Qian Renxue to anticipate him so quickly. She handed him the document at once. "Here," she said lightly. "It was only an imitation training ground that got destroyed. I'll take responsibility. Your sister will handle this." There was a mischievous glint in her eyes and a half-smile at the corner of her mouth. Lin Yu, caught off guard, forced an awkward smile and reached out. Qian Renxue took his hand. With a small tug from him, she leaned naturally into his embrace. They had grown used to such intimacy, whether whispering shyly, trading quiet affection, or discussing state matters. Lin Yu had once promised to help her lighten her workload with memorials, and she still remembered. "You remembered? I thought you'd forget after a few days," she teased. Lin Yu's casual reply drew a sudden, dangerous look to her face. "If I had forgotten, would you really put me to work with so many memorials every day and watch me get more exhausted?" Lin Yu thought inwardly. Women were inscrutable at any age, and Qian Renxue was no exception. He didn't answer lightly. After a breath, he nuzzled her small head and tightened the hand at her waist. "How could I let you suffer? Grandpa said we'll have children someday. How could I let Sister Shui work herself to the bone?" Qian Renxue flushed and smacked him playfully. "Xiao Yu, what are you saying? And who gave you permission to call him Grandpa?" After their teasing, Lin Yu shifted the conversation to more serious matters. He explained a bit about an old aristocratic council system from Britain in his previous life. Qian Renxue, having spent many years as crown prince and naturally sensitive to court affairs, understood the concept quickly. Such a council could seem to reduce the monarch's power, but nothing was absolute. The monarch still decided the final outcome. If he backed one side, that side would gain overwhelming advantage. To a degree, a well-designed council could strengthen the throne by dividing a clustered aristocratic bloc that currently held vast influence and forced the royal family to make concessions. "What do you think?" Lin Yu asked. "If we get Sister Shui to push this, it'll spark conflict among the nobles. They'll brawl for power and profit, and while they're busy fighting each other, we can replace key figures one by one. Once they've worn themselves out and agreed on collective terms, that will be the moment to change the banner for the Heaven Do Empire. You just have to work hard for a little while longer, then you'll have more free time." "That sounds reasonable," Qian Renxue replied, eyes bright. "Faced with power and profit, nobles will fight until they bleed. It's predictable." The noble class was an unavoidable barrier. If the Heaven Do Empire's resources were divided into 10 parts, the royal family held 3. The Spirit Master families and sects led by the Clear Sky sect, and the 7 treasure glazed tile school held 3, and the nobles had 3 more. The remaining share, sometimes less than 1, was scattered among lone practitioners and small academies. Nobility and Spirit Master status overlapped, but they were not identical. In the original timeline, when the Heaven Do Empire suddenly offered 10 baron titles and a viscountship to recruit talent, Solace had called it an enormous concession. Granting titles was the emperor's prerogative, but in a realm where the nobility had grown too powerful, it became a forced compromise between the royal family and the elite. In the short term, for immediate family interests, nobles in Heaven Do City and across the empire would fight desperately to get into the noble council. The more they turned on each other, the better it would be for Shui Qinghe, impersonated by Qian Renxue, to replace pivotal figures and reshape the balance. The plan filled Qian Renxue with excited energy. She threw her arms around Lin Yu's neck and kissed him, her lips warm and insistent. He was no Liu Xiahui. He met her embrace. For a while they were lost in the intimacy of 2 young people who could only show deep affection with embraces and kisses. When they finally pulled back, both a little breathless, Qian Renxue smoothed her disheveled white dress. Then she remembered the dispatch from the Hall of Worship. Qin Ming, who had entered the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect through Flender's connections, had taken advantage of the disorder after Yu Wanzhen's death and escaped. Lin Yu's efforts to catch him had failed, so he ordered Mo Xiang to mobilize Spirit Hall personnel to search. Qin Ming, trained at Shrek Academy and influenced by Flender, had fled into the Sunset Forest. He'd underestimated Spirit Hall's tenacity. They tracked him down even there. Cornered, he made a desperate run for Slaughter City. The gates of Slaughter City were notorious. By design and through the indulgence of certain divinities, it blocked Spirit Hall pursuers. Qin Ming had counted on that refuge. I never thought they'd be stupid enough to drive him into Slaughter City, Qian Renxue said, frowning. Why don't we just drop it? With Qin Ming's limited ability, he won't last long in a place like that. She said it because Slaughter City was where the unforgivable sinners gathered. She didn't want Lin Yu to act rashly and chase him in. Lin Yu heard the concern and held her closer. Don't worry, he said. I won't do anything reckless, but I have to go there once. Not for the Slaughter God domain, but to verify a few things. Qian Renshue's expression hardened. No matter what he said, she wouldn't agree. If he went in, she would follow him. Seeing her determination, Lin Yu had no choice but to reveal some things he wasn't meant to disclose yet.